My name is Molly. I'm 32 and married to Justin, who is 35 and works in an office. I'm a freelance fashion designer working from home. At first, my work was unstable with small projects, but then I got a big job with a nice paycheck. This gave Justin and me a chance to move into a fancy apartment. Since I wanted to live in a place like this, I agreed to pay the rent myself. Justin was happy, and I thought everything was going great, but things took an unexpected turn. One day, Justin brought his mom, Betty, over to our apartment. Betty is 65 and had been living alone since her husband passed away 3 years ago. "Hi, Melly," she said. "Hi, Betty, it's been a while, what's going on?" I asked. "Well, she wants to live with us," Justin said awkwardly. "Why?" I was surprised. He explained that Betty's house was old and falling apart, and she didn't have much money. She wanted to move in with us for a while. "Oh, I see," I said, though I wasn't thrilled about it. Our apartment felt like a private space just for the two of us. Betty was almost a stranger to me, so I didn't feel comfortable. "Please," Justin begged, "her house is falling apart. I'll make sure she finds a new place soon." "Okay," I agreed reluctantly, thinking it would only be temporary. A month later, Betty moved in. "Thank you for letting me stay here," she said. "No problem," I replied with a fake smile. "Make yourself at home." "Sorry to ask right away, but can I borrow some money?" she asked. I was surprised. She had just moved in and was already asking for money. "I've been seeing the doctor a lot, and it's expensive. Could you lend me $300? She said. I felt bad but understood that health issues could be costly at her age, so I gave her $650. Then, one day, Justin asked for my advice. "I think we should get a new car," he said. I was shocked. "We just bought a car 2 years ago." "It's too small, we need a bigger one." I didn't see the point. We didn't need a bigger car. It was just for the two of us, well, 3 if you count Betty. "It's because my mom doesn't like it," he explained. "Why does she care about the car?" I was confused. "She wants a nicer car, like a Mercedes," he said. "What? We can't afford that. Does Betty even drive?" I couldn't understand why she was complaining. "I'm not buying an expensive car," I told him. "Tell her to." I didn't see why this was a big deal, but it didn't end there. Betty asked me for money again. "My medical bills are piling up. Could you help me again?" she said. "Should I be worried about your health?" I asked. She hesitated before saying, "Not really, I'm just feeling a little down and having trouble sleeping. The therapist is expensive. I'm really sorry." "How much do you need?" I asked. "About $1,000, she said. I was shocked. Therapy sounded so expensive. "My insurance only covers a few sessions. After that, I have to pay part of the cost," she explained. I was stunned but tried to understand that health treatments could be pricey. Even after that, Betty kept coming up with excuses like medical bills or transportation costs to visit sick friends, all to borrow more money from me. When I realized she had borrowed over $5,000, even though my job was going well, I was getting frustrated. Then, I noticed something strange. One day, I peeked into Betty's room. What? There were designer bags and wallets neatly arranged on the shelf. I couldn't believe my eyes. She said she didn't have money, but how could she afford all these expensive things? She borrowed so much from me but had so many luxury items. I started to wonder if the medical bills were real. A month later, Betty came to ask for money again. "Can I borrow some money?" she asked, acting like it was no big deal. "Wait a second," I said. I had been planning to confront her, so I called Justin, who didn't seem to know what was going on. "I need to ask Betty what she's really spending the money on," I told him. "What's going on, Melly?" Justin asked, clearly confused. "Betty says she's paying for therapy, prescriptions, and..." She trailed off. "It's not just that, right? You've been buying designer bags and clothes, haven't you? Are you really seeing a therapist?" I asked bluntly. "Of course, I am," she replied quickly. "Well, show me the receipts, you must have them, right?" She didn't know how to answer, and I could tell she was caught in a lie. "What are you two talking about?" Justin asked, still confused. "Betty has borrowed over $5,000 from me, and it's all been for things that aren't even real," I said. "Well, even so, you don't need to be so harsh," Justin said. He was always protective of his mom, like a mama's boy. I don't have any receipts. I've been shopping and eating out with friends, Betty finally admitted. I thought to myself, it's crazy that she acts like she has no money, but is buying all this stuff. She wasn't depressed at all, it was all a lie. You need to pay me back right now. Betty looked at me with sad eyes. I can't pay that much back right away, she said. I've had enough, I replied, pointing to her room. You have all this designer stuff in your room. Sell it if you have to, but if not, you need to move out. Justin rushed to her defense. Hey, you're being unfair. She deserves a little luxury too. I wouldn't call borrowing money from me luxury. Over $5,000 is a scam, I snapped. You're being disrespectful, Justin said, upset. Don't act like you're in charge just because you're paying the rent. If you don't like it, you can leave too, I said, my anger boiling over. I glared at Justin, furious. Did I say anything wrong? He asked, confused. You're the one who brought Betty here in the first place. You don't do anything but stay home. Thanks to me, you get to live in this nice place, I snapped. You're so full of yourself. It's infuriating. Get out now. Justin was getting angry too. Fine, don't regret this, he said. He packed up only the essentials and left. I found a new place quickly. Since I worked remotely, I could live anywhere as long as it was comfortable. I didn't need to live in a high-rise. I had no intention of going back to that apartment. The rent was paid by me every month, and I figured Justin wouldn't be able to take over the lease. His paycheck was nowhere near enough to cover it, while my income was much higher. I met with a realtor I'd worked with before. I'm having trouble paying the rent for personal reasons, I told him. I could easily afford it, but I lied on purpose. I'm sorry to hear that. What would you like to do? He asked. I asked him for a favor. A few days later, I got a call from Justin while I was working. What? I answered. What have you done? He shouted. I had the lease cancelled, I said. You know I don't live there anymore. I shouldn't have to pay the rent, he argued. Well, my mom and I still live here, he said. I was shocked and sighed. I don't live there anymore, so why should I keep paying for the apartment? If you're struggling, talk to your mom. Maybe sell some of her stuff to get money, I said sarcastically. Shut up. It was you who wanted to live in a high-rise. If you don't want to move, take over the lease yourself, he yelled. I replied, well, with your salary, I'm sure you can afford it. He was silent for a moment, frustrated. You could probably find a cheap apartment, so why don't you just move in with your mom? I said coldly. Are you crazy? My mom already spent the money from selling her house, and I have no savings. How do you think I can find a new place? He asked, sounding desperate. Not my problem, I said coldly. He had been relying on my income all this time, and yet still had no savings? I realized just how irresponsible both he and his mother were. You deserve this for being so foolish. Figure it out on your own from now on, I said. Are you trying to make us homeless? You're still my wife, he shouted. I told you, deal with it. I'm done with you, goodbye. I hung up. A few minutes later, my phone rang again. It was Betty. Hello? I answered. Melly, I'm so sorry. I'll pay you back. Please don't kick us out, she said, sounding upset. I was shocked and disappointed. I don't want to teach you lessons, but you should live within your means. If you only have a small retirement, then live accordingly. If you want a better life, you have to work for it, I said. As a freelancer, I knew the reality. If I wanted a certain lifestyle, I had to earn it myself instead of depending on others. I'm sorry, Betty said. It's all my fault. I'm sorry, but that apartment has already been rented to someone else. You really need to move out. This is a legal matter, I told her coldly and ended the call. Later, I heard from the realtor that Justin and Betty had begged him, in tears, to keep the lease for them, but he told them a new tenant was moving in, and they had to leave. Even if they stayed, I knew Justin's salary wouldn't cover the rent, and they couldn't afford anything else. It was ridiculous for me to keep paying the rent while Justin was relying on me. He made everything worse by losing his temper, and there was no way back from that. What an idiot. I later learned from mutual acquaintances that they couldn't rent an apartment. They had to move from motel to motel because Justin didn't have enough money for the broker's fee and the deposit, and no one wanted to be his guarantor. Betty had only worked for a short time, so her social security didn't pay much, and they were struggling just to eat. They'd brought all this on themselves. Meanwhile, I managed to land another big project and became more financially comfortable. Looking back at our marriage, I realized that depending on each other too much is not sustainable, whether it's money or living situations. Relying on your partner too much only leads to pain when things go wrong. As for Justin and me, we stayed separated for a while before finally getting divorced. After everything, our feelings had cooled off, and there was no reason to stay together anymore. Now that we're strangers, I feel relieved. If I ever marry again, I'll be more careful. I'll take my time to find the right partner. The divorce taught me a lot about life from different perspectives.
I stood in front of the Marshall estate, my fingers trembling as I traced the intricate ironwork of the gates. This was supposed to be where my perfect day would unfold, where I'd finally become Mrs. Cole Harrison. Instead, I was about to lose it all to the woman who had already taken so much from me. My name is Catherine, and this is the story of how I lost my wedding venue, but found myself in the process. Isn't it beautiful? I whispered to Cole as we walked the grounds during our venue tour. The century-old mansion stood proudly against the autumn sky, its marble columns and sweeping staircases exactly as I remembered from my childhood visits with my grandmother. "It's nice," Cole replied, distracted by his phone. "But are you sure about the cost?" My sister Louise mentioned Dash. Louise? I felt my stomach clench. What does Louise have to do with our wedding venue? Before Cole could answer, his phone buzzed. "Hold on, it's Mom." He stepped away, leaving me alone with Agnes, the estate's event coordinator. "Your grandmother used to bring you here for the garden parties, didn't she?" Agnes smiled warmly. "I remember you running around these gardens in your little sundress." I nodded, fighting back tears. "This place means everything to me. It's where Grandma taught me about love and family traditions." The next day, everything fell apart. "You can't seriously be considering the Marshall estate," Louise announced during Sunday dinner at Cole's parents' house. She waved her newly ringed finger in my face. Carlos had proposed just last week. "That's where I'm having my wedding." I nearly choked on my wine. "What?" But Cole and I already dash. "Oh, sweetie," my future mother-in-law Patricia interrupted. "Louise has had her heart set on that venue since she was a little girl. Surely you understand." I turned to Cole, expecting support. Instead, he avoided my eyes, suddenly fascinated by his mashed potatoes. "But we've already started the paperwork," I protested. "We picked a date and everything." "Catherine," Louise leaned forward, her perfectly manicured nails drumming against the table. "You know how much this means to me. I'm like a daughter to the Marshalls. I've done charity work with them for years. It just makes sense that I should have my wedding there." "You've known them for 2 years," I muttered. "What was that?" Patricia's voice carried a warning tone. "Nothing." I forced a smile. I need some air." I escaped to the back porch, where Cole finally found me 20 minutes later. "Baby, I know you're upset," he started. "Upset?" "Cole, this is our wedding we're talking about. My grandmother's favorite place. You know what it means to me." He sighed, running his hands through his hair. "Look, you know how Louise gets. And Mom's already talking about helping with the deposits. It would mean a lot to the family if we could just be flexible about this." "Flexible?" I laughed bitterly. Like when I was flexible about Louise taking over our engagement party, or when she insisted on announcing her promotion at our celebration dinner. That's not fair. Louise is just Louise. She likes things a certain way. Inside, I could hear Louise's theatrical laughter, followed by Patricia's doting responses. A familiar scene that had played out countless times before. "Fine," I said quietly. "She can have the venue." Cole's face lit up. "Really? You're the best, babe. I'll go tell them." As he rushed back inside, I pulled out my phone and opened my messages to Nathaniel, my oldest friend. "Remember that crazy idea we talked about?" I typed. "I'm in." His response was immediate. "You sure about this?" I watched through the window as Louise hugged Cole, their mother wiping away happy tears. No one had even noticed I wasn't there. "Absolutely," I replied. "Time to start planning." That night, as I lay in bed scrolling through Louise's endless social media posts about her perfect venue, I felt something shift inside me. Years of being overshadowed, of playing nice, of being flexible, it all crystallized into a single, clear purpose. Let Louise have her precious Marshall estate. Let her plan her dream wedding, obsess over every detail, and bask in the family's adoration. She had no idea what was coming. I smiled in the darkness, already imagining the chaos that would unfold. Because while Louise was busy playing the perfect bride-to-be, I had information she didn't. Information that would turn her dream wedding into a nightmare. For once, I wouldn't be the one bending to accommodate Louise's wishes. This time, karma would do the bending for me. I picked up my phone one last time and texted Agnes. Can we meet tomorrow? There's something I need to ask you. The pieces were falling into place. And for the first time in years, I felt truly, wickedly alive. You're surprisingly calm about all this, Louise remarked as we browsed through flower arrangements at her chosen florist. I honestly expected more resistance. I smiled sweetly, channeling 3 years of amateur theater experience. Why wouldn't I be supportive of my future sister-in-law? The florist presented another elaborate centerpiece, and Louise clapped her hands in delight. Meanwhile, my phone buzzed with a message from Agnes. Coffee at 2? Important update. I need to step out for a bit, I announced. Wedding errands of my own. Louise barely looked up from the roses. Oh! Found a new venue. Working on it, I replied, already heading for the door. The small cafe near the Marshall estate had become my secret headquarters of sorts. Agnes was already waiting, her usually cheerful face drawn with concern. Catherine, I shouldn't be telling you this, she began, glancing around nervously. But given your history with the estate, the Marshalls are selling. I gripped my coffee cup tighter. Selling? To whom? A developer. They're planning to convert it into a boutique hotel. Construction starts in 3 months. My heart raced. 3 months? But that's exactly when Louise's wedding is scheduled, yes. Agnes nodded grimly. The family hasn't announced it publicly yet. They're waiting until all the paperwork is final. I took a slow sip of coffee, processing this information. And Louise has no idea? None of the clients do. We're supposed to start calling everyone next week to cancel all future events. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Agnes, I reached across the table, squeezing her hand. Thank you for telling me. But please, don't say anything to Louise or her family yet. She raised an eyebrow. Catherine, trust me. Some people need to learn lessons the hard way. Leaving Agnes, I drove straight to Nathaniel's apartment. He opened the door before I could knock, taking one look at my face and saying, "Spill." I told him everything while pacing his living room. When I finished, he whistled low. So let me get this straight, he said. Louise stole your venue, but the venue won't even exist by her wedding day, and you're the only one who knows. Karma's a funny thing, isn't it? He leaned forward, eyes serious. And what about your wedding? Still want to go through with our plan? More than ever. I pulled out my phone, showing him the beach resort I'd been researching. Small ceremony, just us and a few close friends. The weekend before Louise's big day. And Cole. I paused. What about him? Catherine. Nathaniel's voice softened. We've been friends since we were kids. I know you love him, but is he worth all this? That's just it. I sank onto his couch. I'm not sure I do love him anymore. Not after watching him consistently choose his sister's happiness over mine. My phone buzzed again. A message from Florence, Cole's younger sister. Can we talk? Alone. Speaking of allies, I showed Nathaniel the message. Want to help me recruit another one? An hour later, I sat across from Florence at a different cafe, watching her stir her tea absently. I saw what happened with the venue, she said quietly. It's not right how they treat you. How they've always treated you. But they're your family. Exactly. Which is why I know better than anyone how Louise operates. She looked up, determination in her eyes. Whatever you're planning, and don't tell me you're not planning something, I want in. I studied her face carefully. It could get messy. Good. Florence's smile was sharp. It's about time something did. That evening, I attended another wedding planning session at Patricia's house, watching Louise hold court from her usual spot on the expensive sofa. The Marshall estate is just perfect, she gushed. I can already picture everything. The ceremony in the garden, cocktails on the terrace, dancing in the ballroom. I caught Florence's eye across the room, and we shared a subtle smile. What about you, Catherine? Patricia asked suddenly. Found a new venue yet? Actually, yes, I replied smoothly. Something small and intimate. It suits us better. Oh, thank goodness, Louise sighed dramatically. I was worried you might be upset about the whole thing. I stood up, gathering my things. Life's too short for upset, Louise. Sometimes things work out exactly as they're meant to. As I left, I sent a quick text to Nathaniel. Book the resort. It's time. His response came immediately. Already done. No turning back now. I looked up at the evening sky, feeling lighter than I had in months. Louise could have her perfect wedding plans. She could have her family's adoration and her elaborate dreams. I had something better, the truth. And in exactly 3 months, everyone else would have it too. And then I thought, what if we released Doves at Sunset? Louise's voice carried across Patricia's dining room. Wouldn't that be magical? I stabbed my fork into the overcooked chicken, imagining the doves flying straight into the construction cranes that would soon occupy the estate's grounds. Absolutely magical, Patricia cooed. Catherine, dear, you're being awfully quiet tonight. I looked up from my plate, plastering on my best supportive smile. Just taking it all in. Everything sounds wonderful, Louise. I know, right? Louise beamed. Carlos says I have a natural talent for this. Speaking of which, she turned to Cole. Has Catherine shown any interest in helping with the planning? I mean, since she's practically given up on her own wedding. The table fell silent. Cole shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Actually, I set down my fork. We're making progress with our plans. They're just more private. Private? Louise scoffed. Is that code for cheap? Louise, Carlos warned, but she waved him off. I'm just saying, if you need help with the budget dash. Not everyone needs a circus to feel special, Florence cut in, her voice sharp. Patricia gasped. Florence. Apologize to your sister. Stepsister, Florence corrected. And I'm not apologizing for telling the truth. I caught Cole watching me, something like uncertainty crossing his face. For a moment, I remembered why I'd fallen for him, those rare glimpses of awareness when he almost stood up to his family. But then Louise started crying, and like a well-rehearsed play, everyone rushed to comfort her. I'm just trying to help, she sobbed. I want everything to be perfect. Why does everyone hate me? Nobody hates you, Princess, Patricia soothed, shooting daggers at Florence and me. My phone buzzed. A message from Agnes. Development plans finalized. Construction starts exactly as scheduled. Excuse me, I stood up. I need some air. Cole followed me onto the patio. Catherine, wait. Don't, I turned to face him. Just don't. She means well, he started, but I cut him off with a laugh. Remember our engagement party? I asked. When Louise announced her promotion during your speech? She was excited dash. Or my birthday dinner last year. When she hijacked the conversation to show everyone her new car. That's just how she is dash. Exactly, Cole. That's how she is. And you. I stepped closer, looking into his eyes. You're the person who lets her be that way. He ran his hands through his hair, his nervous tell. What do you want me to do? She's my sister. And I'm supposed to be your future wife. The sliding door opened, and Patricia stepped out. Cole, honey? Louise needs you. She's quite upset. Of course she was. Cole gave me an apologetic look before heading inside. I waited until the door closed before pulling out my phone. Everything still set for next weekend? I texted Nathaniel. All arranged. You ready? I watched through the window as Cole hugged Louise, the family clustered around them like a protective shield. More than ready. Back inside, Louise had recovered enough to continue her wedding planning monologue. The Marshall estate is just so perfect, she sighed dreamily. Mom, remember when we used to drive past it when I was little? I always said I'd get married there. Florence caught my eye and mouthed, liar. We both knew Louise had never shown interest in the estate until she'd heard about my plans. I just hope they maintain those beautiful gardens, Patricia mused. I heard rumors about the owners wanting to make changes. I took a sip of wine to hide my smile. I'm sure everything will work out exactly as it's meant to. Later that night, as Cole drove us home, he tried again. Baby, I know Louise can be overwhelming. Overwhelming. I stared out the window. Is that what we're calling it? Look, after the wedding dash. After the wedding, what? I turned to him. Things will be different? Louise will suddenly respect boundaries? You'll finally stand up to your family? He gripped the steering wheel tighter. You're being unfair. No, Cole. I'm being clear. For the first time in our relationship, I'm being absolutely clear. We rode the rest of the way in silence. As we pulled into our driveway, my phone lit up with a message from Florence. Just heard Louise talking to Mom. She's planning to announce her pregnancy at your wedding. Whenever that ends up being. I closed my eyes, letting out a long breath. Of course she was. Opening my eyes, I typed back, "Don't worry. She won't get the chance." Cole was already heading inside, probably assuming I'd follow as I always did, ready to make peace and move on. Not this time. I pulled up my conversation with Nathaniel. Can you move everything up? I don't want to wait another week. His response was immediate. Say when. I looked at our house, at the life I'd tried to build with a man who would never truly be mine. Tomorrow, I typed. Let's end this tomorrow. The morning sun streamed through our bedroom window as I quietly packed my essentials. Cole had already left for work, kissing me goodbye with his usual distracted affection. He had no idea it would be our last kiss. My phone buzzed with a message from Florence. Mom's hosting a pre-wedding brunch for Louise today. Where are you? Not feeling well, I replied. Send my regrets. 3 more messages arrived in quick succession. Florence, you're doing it today, aren't you? Nathaniel, flight booked. 4 p.m. Agnes, demolition crew just did their final walkthrough. It's really happening. I took a deep breath and called the one person who deserved to know the truth. Catherine? Cole's sister picked up immediately. Are you okay? Florence, I need you to listen carefully. I'm leaving. A pause. Today? Yes. And I need you to do something for me. Anything. Don't tell them where I've gone. Just be there when everything falls apart. What about Cole? I zipped up my suitcase. He made his choice a long time ago. He just doesn't know it yet. The doorbell rang. Nathaniel, right on time. I opened the door to find him leaning against his car, looking both concerned and determined. Last chance to back out, he said as he helped with my bags. Not a chance. I handed him an envelope. Can you mail this on your way to the airport? He glanced at the address. The Marshall Estate? My resignation letter from Louise's wedding party. Seemed only fair to make it official. As we drove away, my phone lit up with messages from Louise. Where are you? Mom's brunch is starting. Hello? Catherine, this is so inconsiderate. Cole is worried about you. I switched off my phone. You know they'll try to stop you, Nathaniel said as we merged onto the highway. They can try. I twisted my engagement ring, then slipped it off. But they're about to have bigger problems. At the airport, Florence called one last time. Louise is furious, she reported. She's convinced you're trying to steal attention from her special day. I laughed. Tell her not to worry. Her special day will be memorable enough. Catherine. Florence's voice softened. Are you sure about this? Remember when we were kids? How Louise would always take your toys and your parents would say, just let her have it. Yeah, I'm done letting her have it. The airport buzzed with activity as Nathaniel and I made our way to security. Just before I went through, he grabbed my hand. What? I asked. I need to tell you something. He looked nervous suddenly. I've been in love with you since we were 16. My heart skipped. Nathaniel, I know this isn't the right time. And I know you're running away from Cole, not running to me. But he squeezed my hand. I just needed you to know. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again, Cole calling. I declined the call and turned to Nathaniel. You're wrong, I said softly. I'm not just running away. I'm finally running toward something real. His smile lit up his entire face. As we boarded the plane, I turned my phone on one last time. Messages flooded in. Cole, where are you? Everyone's worried. Louise, this is so typical of you, making everything about yourself. Patricia, dear, you're being very childish. Florence, stay strong. I've got your back. And finally, Agnes, construction company just posted the public notice. It's all over social media. I smiled, imagining the chaos unfolding at Patricia's brunch. How long before someone saw the notice? How long before Louise's perfect world started crumbling? Ready? Nathaniel asked as the plane began to taxi. I looked at him, really looked at him. My best friend since childhood, the person who'd always seen me clearly, who'd never asked me to be less so someone else could be more. Actually, I said, there's something I need to tell you too. But before I could continue, my phone lit up with one final message. From Cole. Just saw the news about the Marshall estate. Please tell me you knew about this. I turned off my phone for good and turned to Nathaniel. Yes, I said, answering both Cole's text and Nathaniel's question. I'm ready. The plane took off, carrying us toward the small beach resort where a justice of the peace was waiting. Where a new life was waiting. Behind us, Louise's perfect world was about to implode. And for once, I wouldn't be there to pick up the pieces. Some people might call it revenge. I called it karma. And karma, like a demolition crew, was about to do its work. The ocean breeze ruffled my simple white dress as I stood barefoot in the sand, holding Nathaniel's hands. No elaborate decorations, no doves, no drama, just us, a justice of the peace, and the setting sun painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. My phone lay silent in my beach bag, but Florence had insisted on keeping one line of communication open through her burner phone. As Nathaniel and I exchanged vows, it buzzed with updates from Ground Zero. Do you, Catherine, take Nathaniel? Buzz, Louise just arrived at the Marshall estate for her final venue walkthrough. You should see her face. I do, I said, squeezing Nathaniel's hands. Do you, Nathaniel, take Catherine? Buzz, OMG. She's screaming at the construction foreman. Mom's trying to call the owners. I do, Nathaniel said, his eyes never leaving mine. Buzz, Cole just showed up. He looks shell-shocked. As we sealed our marriage with a kiss, Florence's messages kept coming rapid fire. Louise is having a complete meltdown. Security had to escort them out. Carlos is trying to calm her down, but she's hysterical. Mom's threatening to sue everyone. I picked up the phone and typed, "How's Cole?" Florence replied instantly, "He keeps asking if anyone's heard from you." Should I tell him? No. He'll figure it out soon enough. Nathaniel wrapped his arms around me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder to read the messages. You okay? I turned in his arms. You know what? For the first time in years, I really am. Mrs. Nathaniel Chin, he grinned. Has a nice ring to it. Better than Mrs. Cole Harrison ever did. My phone buzzed again, this time with a video. Florence had captured Louise's meltdown in all its glory. She was standing in front of the estate's gates, designer dress covered in dust from the construction site, mascara running down her face as she screamed at a bewildered worker. This is my venue. Do you know who I am? This is my special day. Behind her, Patricia was frantically dialing numbers on her phone while Carlos tried to guide Louise back to their car. Cole stood off to the side, staring at his phone, probably still trying to reach me. Should we watch? Nathaniel asked. I shook my head. Let's dance instead. We swayed to the sound of waves crashing against the shore, but Florence's updates kept coming. Louise found out you knew about the demolition plans. She's out for blood. Mom's calling all the luxury venues in a 100-mile radius. Nothing available. Cole finally connected the dots about your disappearance. He's not taking it well. I switched off the phone and tossed it back in my bag. Enough karma watching for one day. Want to tell me what you're thinking? Nathaniel asked softly. I'm thinking. I looked up at him, at the kindness in his eyes that had always been there. I'm thinking I should have done this years ago. Later that night, in our beachfront suite, I finally turned my phone back on. The messages flooded in. Louise, you knew. You planned this. I'll never forgive you. Patricia, How could you be so selfish? After everything we've done for you. Carlos, this is low, Catherine. Really low. Cole, please call me. We need to talk. And then, one final message from Florence, sent just minutes ago. Louise just announced she's postponing her wedding indefinitely. Says she can't possibly plan another perfect day and time. But here's the real tea, Carlos doesn't look happy about it. At all. I showed the messages to Nathaniel, who was lounging on our balcony with 2 glasses of champagne. Karma's not just a demolition crew, he mused, handing me a glass. It's also a relationship wrecking ball. Should I feel bad? I asked. He considered this. Do you? I thought about years of being overshadowed, of Cole's constant capitulation to his sister's demands, of Louise's endless entitlement. No, I said finally. I really don't. My phone buzzed one last time, Cole calling. After a moment's hesitation, I answered. Catherine? Where are you? On my honeymoon. Silence. Then what? I got married today, Cole. To someone who sees me, who chooses me. But our wedding, we were supposed to. No, I cut him off. You were supposed to be my partner. Instead, you were Louise's brother first, your mother's son second, and my fiancé a distant third. So I made a different choice. Catherine, please dash. Goodbye, Cole. Give my best to Louise. I hear she's having venue troubles. I hung up and turned to Nathaniel, who was watching me with a mix of pride and love. Ready for our first sunset as husband and wife? He asked. I took his hand and stepped onto the balcony, leaving my phone and my old life behind. Ready for everything. 3 days into our honeymoon, Florence's messages became impossible to ignore. Louise is going nuclear. She's telling everyone you sabotaged her wedding. Mom's calling all their society friends, trying to salvage Louise's reputation. Cole's drinking. A lot. Carlos moved out last night. I was lounging by the resort pool when my phone started ringing. Louise's number. Nathaniel looked up from his book, raising an eyebrow. Time to face the music? He asked. I took a deep breath and answered. Hello, Louise. You vindictive bitch. Her scream was so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. You planned this. You knew about the demolition and you let me plan everything anyway. Karma's funny that way. Karma? She laughed hysterically. You call this karma? You destroyed my wedding. My reputation. Carlos won't even talk to me. That sounds awful, I said calmly. Almost as awful as having someone deliberately steal your wedding venue. Silence. Then, that's different. I deserved dash. You deserved what, Louise? To always get your way? To take whatever you want without consequences. I'm telling everyone what you did, she threatened. No one will ever speak to you again. Go ahead. Tell them how you demanded my venue, how your brother chose you over his fiancé, how your mother enabled your entitlement. Tell them everything. Cole is devastated. She tried a different approach. How could you do this to him? The same way he did it to me. One choice at a time. The line went quiet. When Louise spoke again, her voice was different. Smaller. Carlos says I'm just like Mom. That I never think about anyone but myself. Sounds like Carlos is pretty smart. He says he needs time to think about our relationship. I sat up straighter. Are you actually asking for my sympathy right now? I don't understand why everyone's being so mean to me. Goodbye, Louise. I hung up and turned to Nathaniel. Well, that was dash. My phone rang again. Cole. Your turn. Nathaniel squeezed my hand. Catherine? Cole's voice was rough. Please don't hang up. What do you want? To understand. Was any of it real? Us. I closed my eyes. It was real until it wasn't. Until I realized I'd always be competing with Louise for your attention. So you planned this? This whole time? No. The Marshall estate situation was just lucky timing. But once I knew, I made a choice. Just like you did, every time you chose Louise over me. I loved you, he said quietly. No, Cole. You loved the idea of me. The woman who would always understand, always step aside, always let Louise shine. But that's not love. That's convenience. And Nathaniel? How long has that been going on? I looked at my new husband, who was pretending not to listen while reading his book. Nathaniel saw me when no one else did, including you. Florence knew, didn't she? About everything. She knew what it was like to live in Louise's shadow. The difference is, she's stuck with it. I had a choice. Cole's voice cracked. I would have chosen you. After the wedding dash. After the wedding, nothing would have changed. We both know that. My phone buzzed with another message from Florence. Carlos just announced he's taking a job in Seattle. Alone. Look at that, I told Cole. Seems like Carlos made a choice too. This is going to destroy Louise. No, it's going to teach her that actions have consequences. Maybe she'll learn from it. Maybe she won't. But it's not my problem anymore. And us, he asked. What are we supposed to do now? You? You're going to hang up this phone, go comfort your sister, and continue being exactly who you've always been. Me? I'm going to enjoy my honeymoon with my husband. Husband, he repeated hollowly. You really married him? Goodbye, Cole. I ended the call and turned to Nathaniel. Well, that's done. He set down his book. How do you feel? Like I just put down a weight I didn't even know I was carrying. My phone buzzed one more time. A message from Agnes. Demolition starts tomorrow. Thought you'd want to know. I showed Nathaniel the message. Want to order champagne? To celebrate the demolition or the confrontations? Both. And to new beginnings. He pulled me close, kissing me softly. To new beginnings. As we clinked glasses, I couldn't help but smile at the thought of the Marshall estate's imminent transformation. Sometimes the most beautiful things rise from the rubble of what we thought we wanted. And sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's finally choosing yourself. 1 week after our return from the honeymoon, Florence sent me the video I'd been waiting for. The Marshall estate's first demolition day, captured in all its glory, including Louise's final meltdown. You have to watch this, I told Nathaniel, curling up next to him on our apartment couch. The video started with Louise's white Mercedes screeching to a halt outside the estate's gates. She jumped out, still in her yoga outfit, makeup streaked with tears. Stop. You can't do this, she screamed at the demolition crew. This is MY venue. The workers ignored her, continuing their preparations as Patricia's car pulled up behind Louise's. This is gold, Nathaniel whispered, pulling me closer. Florence's steady camera work captured every moment. Louise trying to climb the construction fence, Patricia attempting to reason with the foreman, and finally, Carlos arriving to witness the chaos. Louise, he called out, this has to stop. Carlos. She spun around. Tell them they can't destroy our wedding venue. There is no wedding venue, he said quietly. And there might not be a wedding either. The camera zoomed in on Louise's face as the reality of his words hit her. What are you saying? I'm saying I can't do this anymore. The drama, the entitlement, the constant need to be the center of attention. But I love you. No, Carlos shook his head. You love the idea of a perfect wedding. A perfect life. But none of this is perfect, Louise. It's not even real. Behind them, the first wrecking ball swung into the estate's west wing. Louise's scream of anguish was drowned out by the sound of crumbling marble. The video ended with Louise collapsing into Patricia's arms while Carlos walked away, not looking back. Wow, Nathaniel said. Just wow. My phone buzzed. A text from Ruby, my estranged cousin who'd cut ties with the family years ago after her own run-in with Louise's toxic behavior. Saw the news about Louise's wedding disaster. Finally, someone stood up to her. Dinner soon? You should go, Nathaniel encouraged. Ruby was always the smart one, getting out early. Before I could respond, Florence called. Are you watching the fallout? She asked without preamble. Just finished the demolition video. How's everyone holding up? Mom's in damage control mode. She's telling everyone the venue change is a blessing in disguise because now Louise can have an even grander wedding. And Louise hasn't left her room in 3 days. Carlos's stuff is gone, his ring is on the kitchen counter, and he's not returning anyone's calls. What about Cole? Florence paused. He's different. Quiet. I think he's finally seeing our family clearly for the first time. Better late than never, I said, but without bitterness. Catherine? Florence's voice softened. Thank you. For what? For showing me it's possible to break free. I just accepted a job offer in Chicago. I sat up straighter. Florence. That's amazing. Mom's furious, of course. Says I'm abandoning the family when Louise needs us most. But I'm done living in her shadow. Proud of you, Flo. After we hung up, I checked social media. Louise's perfect Instagram facade was crumbling. Her last post, a bitter rant about loyalty and betrayal, had been deleted after Carlos commented, "The only betrayal was believing you'd ever change." Want to hear something weird? I asked Nathaniel. Always. I don't feel guilty. Not even a little bit. He pulled me closer. Why should you? You didn't cause this. You just stopped preventing the natural consequences of their actions. My phone lit up with another message, from Agnes this time. She'd attached a photo of the demolition site with the caption, "Karma has entered the chat." I showed Nathaniel, and we both laughed. You know, he said, we never did have a proper wedding reception. What did you have in mind? Well, Ruby's back in touch. Florence is breaking free. Maybe it's time for a celebration of new beginnings. For everyone who's ever needed to escape Louise's orbit. I considered this. A party for the survivors? Exactly. We could call it the Liberation Celebration. I finished, already warming to the idea. I picked up my phone and started a group text with Ruby and Florence. Party at our place next Saturday. Theme, freedom. Dress code, whatever the hell you want. RSVP if you're ready to start living your best Louise-free life. Their responses were immediate. Ruby, count me in. Florence, already picking out my outfit. Nathaniel read the messages over my shoulder. Think Louise will hear about it? Oh, definitely. But for once, I don't care what Louise thinks. He kissed my temple. Now that's what I call character development. Outside our window, the sun was setting on another day in our new life. Somewhere across town, Louise was probably still crying in her room, mourning the loss of her perfect wedding, her perfect fiancé, her perfect control. But here, in our imperfect but honest life, everything was exactly as it should be. The Liberation Celebration was in full swing when Florence arrived with unexpected news. Cole's here, she announced, finding me by the punch bowl. He's outside in the parking lot. Says he needs to talk to you. Nathaniel squeezed my hand. Want me to handle it? No, I smiled, kissing his cheek. I've got this. Cole stood by his car, looking smaller somehow. The golden boy shine had worn off, replaced by something more human, more real. Quite a party, he said as I approached. I can hear the music from here. Why are you here, Cole? He pulled an envelope from his jacket. Found this while packing up my place. Thought you should have it. Inside was a photo from our first date, both of us laughing at some forgotten joke, young and hopeful. I've been doing a lot of thinking, he continued. About choices. About who I became when I was trying to keep everyone else happy. And I'm moving to Seattle. That surprised me. Seattle? Carlos got me a job at his new firm. Said maybe some distance from the family would do me good. What does Louise think about that? He laughed humorlessly. Louise isn't speaking to me. Says I betrayed her by taking Carlos's side. Did you? Take his side. I told her he was right about her. About all of us. He looked up at the party lights streaming from my window. Sounds like fun in there. It is. We're celebrating. What exactly? Freedom. Truth. The courage to choose ourselves. He nodded slowly. I get that now. Too late, but I get it. From inside, I heard Ruby's voice call out, Catherine. You're missing the toast. I should go, I said. Catherine? Cole's voice stopped me. I'm sorry. Not just for the wedding venue, but for everything. For every time I made you feel second best. I know. Are you happy? With Nathaniel. I thought about morning coffee conversations that never got interrupted by Louise's drama. About decisions made together, without family interference. About being seen, truly seen, by someone who loved me for exactly who I was. Yes, I said simply. I am. Good. You deserve that. As I turned to leave, he called out one last time. "Hey, Catherine? Thank you." "For what?" "For showing me what courage looks like." Back inside, the party was reaching its peak. Florence was showing everyone her plane ticket to Chicago. Ruby was teaching Nathaniel our old family dance moves. Friends and relatives who'd spent years tiptoeing around Louise's feelings were laughing freely, sharing stories of liberation. "Everything okay?" Nathaniel asked as I rejoined him. "Better than okay," I smiled. "Cole's moving to Seattle." "Running away?" "No, I watched Florence twirl in her freedom dance. I think he's finally running toward something real. Just like the rest of us." Ruby clinked her glass for attention. A toast to Catherine and Nathaniel, who showed us that sometimes the best revenge is living well. And to all of us who finally learned to write our own stories. To writing our own stories, everyone cheered. My phone buzzed one last time, a message from Louise. "I hope you're happy with yourself. You've ruined everything." I showed it to Nathaniel, who grinned. "Want to respond?" Actually, I turned off my phone and set it aside. I don't need to. My happiness speaks for itself. He pulled me onto the makeshift dance floor as Ruby started playing our song. Around us, people who'd spent years living in Louise's shadow were stepping into their own light. Florence was glowing with excitement about her new adventure. Ruby was planning to reopen her art gallery, no longer afraid of Louise's criticism. "You know what the best part is?" I said to Nathaniel as we danced. "What's that?" "We didn't just get revenge. We got freedom. All of us." He spun me around, and I caught a glimpse of our reflection in the window. Not just a couple, but survivors. Warriors. People who'd learned that sometimes the happiest endings come not from getting even, but from getting free. "To freedom," I whispered. "To freedom," he agreed. And to Karma, who finally showed up to the party. Outside, the stars twinkled over a city where one family's perfect facade had crumbled, making way for something more beautiful, truth. And inside, surrounded by love and laughter and liberation, I finally understood. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's the joy of becoming exactly who you were always meant to be.
The basement door slammed behind me with such force that dust particles danced in the thin beam of light streaming through the keyhole. My heart hammered against my ribs as I stumbled down 3 steps before catching myself on the cold railing. "Have fun with the spiders, Sienna." Madison's voice dripped with venom from the other side. The lock clicked into place, and her footsteps faded away upstairs, each one echoing like a nail in my coffin. "I'm Sienna, and this is how my 16-year-old stepdaughter decided to welcome me home after my first business trip as a married woman." "Madison, this isn't funny." I pounded on the door, my fist connecting with solid wood. The impact sent shockwaves up my arm, but the pain barely registered through my rising panic. "Let me out right now, sister." Silence answered. Well, not complete silence. Something scuttled in the darkness behind me, and my skin crawled. I fumbled for my phone, cursing when I remembered it was still in my purse, upstairs in the kitchen, where I dropped it before Madison asked me to check something in the basement. The darkness pressed in around me, thick and suffocating. I'd avoided this basement since moving in 6 months ago. Daniel had laughed at my unease, calling it cute how I'd send him down to fetch things from the storage room. If he only knew how his precious daughter would use my fear against me. "Help!" I screamed, knowing it was useless. Daniel wouldn't be home from work for hours, and our nearest neighbors were too far to hear. My hand brushed against something in my jacket pocket, the small flashlight I'd started carrying after that power outage last month. With trembling fingers, I clicked it on, the beam cutting through the darkness like a knife. Boxes, shelves, old furniture draped in sheets, normal basement stuff that somehow looked sinister in the harsh light. A mirror in the corner caught my reflection. Wide eyes, pale face, disheveled dark hair. I barely recognized myself. "Think, Sienna, think," I muttered, forcing myself to take deep breaths. The basement had to have another way out. The previous owners mentioned something about A crash upstairs made me jump. Madison's voice drifted down, speaking to someone. My blood ran cold when I recognized Rachel's voice, my best friend who was supposed to come over for coffee. Sienna, she left about an hour ago, Madison said, her voice perfectly concerned. Said something about running errands. I can tell her you stopped by when she gets back. That little snake. I could picture her now, all innocent smiles and worried eyes, playing the part of the perfect stepdaughter while I was trapped down here like some dirty secret. Oh, that's weird, Rachel replied. She texted me to come over. Maybe she got delayed. You know how she is, always running late. The conversation continued, but their voices grew fainter. No, no, no. Rachel couldn't leave. She was my only chance. I opened my mouth to scream again, but stopped. Madison would only turn it against me somehow. She'd been doing that for months, twisting every situation, making me look unstable, paranoid. Even Daniel had started giving me those concerned looks, suggesting maybe I was too stressed at work. My flashlight beam caught something else. A small window near the ceiling, mostly blocked by an old bookshelf. If I could climb up, but as I moved closer, I noticed the window had been painted shut recently. The paint was still tacky in spots. This wasn't an impulsive act. Madison had planned this. I sank down onto a dusty box, my mind racing. All those little incidents over the past months, my missing car keys, the accidentally deleted work presentations, the rumors at Daniel's office party, they weren't random acts of teenage rebellion. This was calculated, methodical. The flashlight flickered, and something inside me hardened. Fine. If Madison wanted to play games, I could play too. But unlike her, I had years of experience in the corporate world, where destroying someone required precision, patience, and most importantly, plausible deniability. I heard the front door close upstairs. Rachel was gone. I was alone in the dark with my thoughts and a growing sense of purpose. Game on, Madison. Game on. Daniel found me 3 hours later, huddled in a corner of the basement, my flashlight dead. His face twisted with concern as he helped me up the stairs. But it wasn't me he rushed to check on first. Madison, sweetheart. His footsteps thundered up to the second floor, while I stood in the kitchen, still shaking, still tasting dust in my mouth. I'm fine, Dad, Madison called down, her voice honey-sweet. Just finishing my homework. I gripped the kitchen counter until my knuckles went white. The lies came so easily to her, wrapped in teenage innocence and practiced charm. When Daniel returned, he wrapped his arms around me, but his eyes were distant, already processing how to minimize this latest misunderstanding. The door must have stuck again, he said, rubbing my shoulders. I'll have someone look at it this weekend. The door didn't stick, I said, stepping away from his embrace. Madison locked me in there, on purpose. His sigh felt like a knife between my ribs. Sienna, honey, I know things have been challenging, but Madison wouldn't do that. Shadow, our black cat, wound between my legs, purring. At least someone in this house was on my side. Have you even asked her? She's been in her room all afternoon, studying for her chemistry test. He loosened his tie. A gesture I'd learned meant he was done discussing the topic. Maybe you should lie down. You look pale. The doorbell rang before I could respond. Through the front window, I spotted Rachel's car. She must have come back, worried when I didn't answer her texts. Madison appeared at the top of the stairs, as if summoned. I'll get it. No, I said, my voice sharper than intended. I'll get it. But Madison was already halfway down, shooting me a look that said she knew exactly what would happen if I tried to tell Rachel the truth. She'd twist it, like she always did, make me sound paranoid, unstable, the crazy stepmother trying to come between a father and his daughter. Rachel's smile faltered when she saw my face. Sienna, are you okay? I stopped by earlier, but she was running errands, Madison cut in smoothly. Right, Sienna? I felt Daniel's presence behind me, waiting to see how I'd handle this. One wrong move, and I'd be the villain in tonight's dinner conversation. Again. Right, I forced myself to say. Sorry about that, Rachel. I should have texted. Rachel's nurse's instincts kicked in. I could see it in the way her eyes narrowed, assessing me. "Well, I brought that book you wanted to borrow. Mind if I come in for a minute?" "Actually," Madison piped up, "we were just about to have a family dinner. Dad promised to help me with my chemistry homework after." Daniel's hand squeezed my shoulder. "Rain check, Rachel." I watched my best friend leave, taking with her my chance to expose Madison's true nature. Through the window, I saw our neighbor Ethan walking his dog, pausing to wave at Rachel's retreating car. He glanced up at our house, and for a moment, our eyes met. Something in his expression suggested he'd witnessed more than he let on. "I'm starving," Madison announced, heading for the kitchen. "Sienna, didn't you say you were going to make that pasta thing tonight?" My hands clenched into fists. The pasta thing, the recipe she'd specifically requested this morning, knowing exactly how her afternoon plans would unfold. "I need to check something for work," I said, heading for the stairs. "You two go ahead." In our bedroom, I pulled out my laptop and opened a new document, started typing. Every incident, every misunderstanding, every manipulative moment since I'd married Daniel 6 months ago. Times, dates, witnesses, the paint on the basement window, Rachel's visit, Ethan's knowing look. Madison wanted to play chess, fine, but she'd forgotten something crucial about me. Before I met Daniel, I'd spent 15 years in corporate marketing, where documenting everything wasn't paranoia, it was survival. "Sienna," Daniel called up. "You coming down?" I saved the document and named it Insurance. "Be right there," I called back, a plan already forming in my mind. Madison might have Daniel wrapped around her finger, but she'd made a critical mistake today. She'd shown her hand too soon. And I'd learned long ago that the best revenge isn't served hot or cold. It's served with a smile and impeccable documentation. The email from my boss arrived during dinner. Another presentation corrupted, another deadline missed. My hands trembled as I read it on my phone under the table. Madison's voice chattering about her day, providing perfect cover. And then Jessica said the funniest thing about Sienna's outfit at the school fundraiser last week. My head snapped up. "What fundraiser?" The conversation screeched to a halt. Daniel's fork paused halfway to his mouth. "The one you promised to help organize," Madison said, eyes wide with practiced innocence. "Everyone was asking where you were. I had to tell them you forgot." "I never promised." I stopped remembering the deleted calendar entries I discovered last week, the missing emails, the convenient, technical glitches that seemed to follow me lately. "It was pretty embarrassing," Madison continued, picking at her salad. "Mrs. Peterson said maybe you were still adjusting to family life." Daniel cleared his throat. "Madison, that's enough." But it wasn't enough, not anymore. "Show me your phone," he said, "Spiskat." Madison clutched her phone closer. "Show me your phone right now." "Dad," she turned to Daniel, tears already welling up. "She's being crazy again." "Sienna." Daniel's voice carried that warning tone I'd grown to hate. "Let's not." A notification pinged on my laptop upstairs. Another email. Probably another crisis. I pushed back from the table, my chair scraping against hardwood. "I need some air." Outside, the evening air felt thick with unspoken accusations. I walked to the end of our driveway, then kept walking, my heels clicking against pavement like a metronome, counting down to disaster. "Rough night," I startled. Ethan stood in his front yard, garden hose in hand, though his flowers looked thoroughly watered. "Just family dinner theater," I said, aiming for lightness and missing by miles. "Interesting performance the other day," he said, eyes sharp despite his casual tone. "When Madison told your friend you weren't home," my breath caught. "You saw that. I see a lot from my office window." He coiled the hose slowly. "Like how your stepdaughter seems to have a habit of going through your car when you're not around. The missing presentation files, the corrupted emails, the calendar chaos. Why are you telling me this?" Ethan's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Let's just say I recognize the signs. My ex-wife's daughter had similar hobbies." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. "Daniel, come home, we need to talk." Careful, Ethan called as I turned to leave. Teenagers like Madison? They're playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. Back home, Daniel waited in his study. Madison's crying echoed from upstairs, a performance worthy of Broadway. "This has to stop," he said, rubbing his temples. "These accusations, this paranoia." "Check her phone," I interrupted. "Just check her phone, Daniel. If I'm wrong, I'll apologize. She's 16. She deserves privacy. And I deserve not to have my career sabotaged." Shadow leaped onto the desk between us, tail twitching. In the silence that followed, Madison's sobs grew louder, more theatrical. "I think," Daniel said carefully, "maybe you should stay with Rachel for a few days. Clear your head." Something snapped inside me. "You want me to leave?" "Just temporarily, until things calm down." I laughed, a harsh sound that made Shadow's ears flatten. "Things won't calm down, Daniel. They'll get worse, because that's exactly what she wants." His face hardened. "That's enough." "No, it's not enough. It's nowhere near enough." I moved toward the door, then stopped. "But it will be." Upstairs, Madison's crying ceased abruptly. In that moment of silence, I made my decision. Ethan was right. This was chess, not checkers, and I'd just spotted my opponent's weakness. "I'll pack a bag," I said, watching Daniel's shoulders sag with relief. "But first, I need to send a work email." He nodded, already reaching for his phone to comfort his daughter. In our bedroom, I opened my laptop and created a new email address. Then I started typing. "Dear Mrs. Peterson, I recently learned about the fundraiser incident and wanted to clarify something. Madison wanted to play, fine, but she'd forgotten something crucial about chess. Sometimes the queen has to leave the board to win the game. Rachel's guest room felt like exile, but it gave me space to think. 3 days had passed since Daniel suggested I clear my head, and my phone remained silent except for work emails, each one a fresh disaster I couldn't quite prove was Madison's doing. "You need to eat something," Rachel said, setting down a plate beside my laptop. The smell of toast turned my stomach. "I found something," I said instead, turning the screen toward her. "Look at these timestamps." Rachel leaned in, squinting at the email logs. Every corrupted file, every missed meeting. They all happened when Madison was supposedly at debate team practice. Which means there is no debate team this semester. I checked with the school. The doorbell interrupted Rachel's response. Through the window, I spotted Ethan on the porch, holding what looked like a manila envelope. "I have something you need to see," he said when Rachel let him in. His usual casual demeanor was gone, replaced by something harder. "But first, you need to tell me exactly what happened the day your predecessor left the company." My throat went dry. "What?" He pulled out several printed pages. "Because according to these, Sarah Jenkins didn't just quit. She had a complete breakdown after her stepdaughter accused her of harassment." The toast in my stomach turned to lead. "How did you cum?" "I do background checks for a living," Ethan said. "And Madison's mother didn't just leave town for a fresh start, like Daniel claims. She fled after similar accusations from another teenager at her workplace." Rachel's hand on mine, squeezing tight. "Sienna, what aren't you telling us?" My phone buzzed, a text from Daniel. "Madison's crying again. When are you coming home?" "It's a pattern," Ethan continued, laying out more papers. 3 women before you, all stepmothers, all professionally discredited, all gone within a year. But why would Daniel?" Rachel started. "Because he gets to play the hero," I whispered, pieces clicking into place. The devoted father protecting his daughter, the understanding husband supporting his unstable wife. My phone buzzed again. "Madison this time. I miss you, maybe I overreacted. The perfect trap. Return home and face more sabotage, or stay away and prove I'm abandoning my family." "There's more," Ethan said quietly. "Your company's HR department received an anonymous complaint yesterday about inappropriate behavior toward a minor." The room spun. Rachel cursed, but I barely heard her. All I could see was Madison's innocent smile, her perfectly crafted tears, her father's concerned frown, as he suggested I take some time away. My phone lit up with another text from Daniel. "We should talk. Come home tonight?" "Don't," Rachel said, reading my expression. "Sienna, whatever you're thinking." But I was already grabbing my coat. "I need to get something from the house, just one thing." "It's a trap," Ethan warned. "Once those accusations hit—" "I know," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "But my laptop's still there, with everything I've documented, everything I've backed up, including emails I'd never sent. Insurance, I'd called it. Now it looked more like survival." "I'll go with you," Rachel offered. "No." I checked my phone one last time. Daniel's last message glowed. "Madison's making your favorite dinner." "I need to do this alone," I said, thinking of the basement, of locked doors and painted windows, of a teenager who'd learned too well how to destroy lives while keeping her hands clean. But Madison had made one crucial mistake. She thought she was playing against another Sarah Jenkins, another woman who'd break and run when the accusations flew. She didn't realize she was playing against someone who'd spent 15 years documenting everything, who knew exactly how to make evidence disappear or appear. "If I'm not back in an hour," I told Ethan, "send everything you found to these email addresses." I scribbled down 3 contacts: my lawyer, my boss, and most importantly, Mrs. Peterson from the school board. Rachel grabbed my arm. "What are you going to do?" I thought of my hidden files, of Madison's careful manipulations, of Daniel's practiced concern. "I'm going to teach my stepdaughter a lesson about karma," I said, stepping into the gathering dark. "And this time, I'm not the one who's going to disappear." The house key felt heavy in my hand as I stood on my own doorstep, watching shadows move behind the curtains. "Madison's favorite dinner," Daniel had said, as if pasta could erase weeks of calculated destruction. Shadow wound between my legs as I entered, his purr a warning rather than a welcome. The laptop was upstairs in my office, assuming Madison hadn't already gotten to it. "Sienna?" Daniel's voice from the kitchen. "Is that you?" I kept my footsteps silent on the stairs, counting seconds. 3 minutes to grab the laptop, 2 to transfer the files, 1, 2, I knew you'd try something like this. Madison stood in my office doorway, my laptop open on her lap. Her smile reminded me of a documentary I'd once watched about predators. "That's private property," I said, my voice steadier than my hands. "Like Sarah Jenkins' private emails?" She turned the screen toward me. "The ones where she begged Dad not to believe the lies? Or maybe Catherine Mill's resignation letter, the one she wrote right before her nervous breakdown." Each name hit like a slap. "How long have you been planning this?" "Since Dad first mentioned you." She set the laptop down carefully. "You seemed smarter than the others, though. I actually had to work for this one." Footsteps on the stairs, Daniel coming to complete their performance. "I found something interesting," Madison continued, pulling up a document. "Your little insurance file, the one documenting everything?" Her fingers danced across the keyboard. "It's amazing how easy it is to edit metadata, to make it look like someone's been fabricating evidence for months." The footsteps grew closer. "Why?" I whispered. "What did I ever do to you?" "I did it." "To me?" She laughed, the sound like breaking glass. "Nothing. That's not the point. It's what you did to Dad. Made him think he needed someone else. Made him forget about Mom. Your mother left because you people always leave." Her mask slipped just for a moment. "But Dad stays. He always stays with me." Daniel appeared in the doorway, his concerned expression so perfectly rehearsed, it made my stomach turn. "Everything okay up here?" he asked, as if he hadn't heard every word. Madison's tears appeared on cue. "I was just trying to apologize, Dad," but she started accusing me again. I looked between them, father and daughter, their routine polished by practice. How many times had they performed this play? How many women had stood where I stood, realizing too late they were never meant to have a permanent role? But I wasn't Sarah Jenkins or Catherine Mills. I pulled out my phone, dialed without looking, put it on speaker. "Ethan Carter Investigations," the voice answered. "This call is being recorded." Madison's tears dried instantly. Daniel stepped forward, but I held up my hand. Would you mind sharing what you found about the Jenkins case? I asked, watching their faces. And the Mills case? And especially about Madison's mother. Sienna. Daniel's voice dropped to a warning growl. Think carefully about what you're doing. The files are already sent, I said, though my heart hammered. To my lawyer, my boss, and Mrs. Peterson. Everything, including the basement incident. Madison's mask cracked further. You're lying. Check your email, Mr. Taylor. Ethan's voice cut in. You'll find everything there, including some interesting financial records. Seems paying off previous stepmothers leaves quite a paper trail. The silence stretched like a wire about to snap. Then Madison laughed. Not her usual calculated giggle, but something wild and sharp. It doesn't matter, she said. No one will believe you. They never do. They might not believe me, I agreed, reaching for my laptop. But they'll believe the recordings. The ones from every room in this house, including your little confession just now. Daniel lunged for the laptop, but I was faster. Years of corporate politics had taught me one crucial lesson. Always have a backup plan. One more step, I warned, and everything goes public. Every case, every payoff, every carefully orchestrated breakdown. How many careers have you destroyed, Madison? How many lives? She stared at me, and for the first time, I saw real fear in her eyes. Your move, I said softly. But remember, I'm not playing chess anymore. I'm burning the whole board. The school board meeting room felt like a courtroom, with Mrs. Peterson's disapproving stare serving as judge and jury. My evidence lay scattered across the table. Emails, recordings, financial records. But Madison's tearful performance was stealing the show. I just wanted a mother, she sobbed, Daniel's arm protectively around her shoulders. But she kept trying to turn everyone against me. I watched the board members exchange glances, their sympathy clearly lying with the traumatized teenager rather than the unstable stepmother. Even my recordings worked against me. Madison's confession twisted into the desperate acts of a scared child, protecting herself from an obsessive adult. Mrs. Taylor, Mrs. Peterson adjusted her glasses. These accusations are very serious, but what concerns us more is your apparent fixation on documenting a minor's private moments. Private moments? My laugh sounded hollow, even to my own ears. She locked me in a basement. She sabotaged my career. She created a cry for help. Daniel interrupted smoothly. One we clearly missed, caught up in our own concerns about your stability. The trap snapped shut with brutal efficiency. Every piece of evidence I'd gathered now looked like proof of my own obsession. Every recording painted me as the unstable one. Even Ethan's investigation backfired. What kind of person hired a private investigator to spy on their teenage stepdaughter? I have statements, Daniel continued, sliding a folder forward, from Sarah Jenkins and Catherine Mills, about similar patterns of behavior. My blood ran cold. Of course he'd contacted them. Of course they'd back his story. Anything to stay buried, to keep their own broken pieces hidden. That's not, I started. But Madison's next performance cut me off. I should have told someone sooner, she whispered, tears perfectly timed. About the cameras, the stalking, how she'd follow me to school events pretending to be involved. The school board secretary was taking notes, each tap of her keyboard, another nail in my professional coffin. I looked around the room, searching for one sympathetic face, but found only judgment and disgust. My phone buzzed. Rachel, probably wondering why I hadn't answered her warnings about this meeting being a mistake. Beside her name, I spotted an email notification from my boss regarding your immediate termination. Given the severity of these concerns, Mrs. Peterson said, we'll be recommending a full investigation and temporary restraining order. You can't. It's for the best, honey, Daniel said, his concern so convincing I almost believed it myself. We can get you help. Real help this time. Madison buried her face in his shoulder, but not before I caught her smile. The same one she'd worn in the basement, watching me pound on a locked door. I have proof, I insisted, my voice cracked. The basement door, it was painted shut. There are witnesses. You mean Mr. Carter? Daniel pulled out another document. Your private investigator's license was revoked last year. Something about harassment charges from his own stepdaughter situation. The final piece clicked into place. Ethan hadn't been helping me. He'd been setting me up, another player in Madison's elaborate game. If you'll excuse us, Daniel stood, gathering Madison close. My daughter's been through enough today. I watched them leave, Madison's tears had already dried, her performance complete. Through the window, I spotted Ethan waiting in his car, a silent reminder that I'd never really had allies, only carefully placed props in someone else's story. Mrs. Peterson cleared her throat. Mrs. Taylor, given these developments, we strongly suggest you seek professional help and stay away from Madison. My evidence sat useless on the table, transformed from ammunition into proof of my own unraveling. Every move I'd made, every precaution I'd taken, had been anticipated and turned against me. You don't understand, I whispered, but the room was already emptying, leaving me alone with the ruins of my reputation and career. My phone buzzed again, an email from Daniel's lawyer this time. Divorce papers, probably, the final act in Madison's carefully orchestrated destruction. I'd thought I was burning the chessboard, but I'd never been a player at all. Just another piece to be sacrificed in Madison's game. My moves predicted and countered before I'd even made them. The question wasn't how to win anymore. The question was whether I had anything left to lose. Rachel's spare bedroom had become my war room, walls covered with printouts and photos. 3 weeks since the school board meeting, and I'd finally found what I was looking for. In Daniel's banking records, of all places. My phone buzzed. Madison. Miss you, Sienna. Dad says you can come home if you agree to counseling. I ignored it, focusing on the document in front of me. Regular payments to a private account, starting exactly when Madison's mother disappeared. Not alimony, not child support, something else. The doorbell rang. Through the window, I spotted Daniel's car in the driveway. You shouldn't be here, I said through the crack in the door. Madison's in trouble, he replied, his face drawn. Real trouble, she needs you. I almost laughed. Like Sarah Jenkins needed you, or Catherine Mills, or Madison's mother? His expression shifted, something darker replacing the practiced concern. You don't know what you're talking about. Actually, I held up my phone. I do. I found her, Daniel. Madison's mother? She's not living her best life in California, like you told everyone. She's in a psychiatric facility in Oregon, under a different name, paid for by you. The mask slipped completely. You had no right. To what? Investigate why 3 women before me had mental breakdowns, why they all claimed Madison was destroying their lives, right before being diagnosed with paranoid delusions? A car door slammed behind him. Madison emerged, her usual perfect composure cracking around the edges. You're supposed to be gone, she spat. They all leave, that's how it works. Madison, Daniel warned, but she was already pushing past him into the house. You ruined everything. She grabbed the nearest paper from my wall, tearing it down. We were happy before you came, before all of them came. Were you? I kept my voice steady. Or were you just better at hiding it then? She whirled on me, tears replaced by something feral. You don't understand. None of you understood. He's mine. Madison, stop. Daniel reached for her, but she shoved him away. You promised, she screamed at him. You promised after Mom that you would just be us. But you kept bringing them home, trying to replace her. The pieces clicked into place. Not just a jealous daughter, a traumatized child, enabled by a father too guilty to set boundaries. Each new wife a fresh target for Madison's rage. Each breakdown carefully orchestrated to maintain their dysfunctional dynamic. Your mother's not gone because she abandoned you, I said softly. She's gone because she saw what you were becoming, what your father was letting you become. Madison lunged, but I was ready. The phone in my hand was still recording, still broadcasting live to Rachel's laptop downstairs, to my lawyer's email, to Mrs. Peterson. Tell them, I demanded as Daniel tried to separate us. Tell them how you did it, how you made each of us look crazy, how your father helped cover it up. You don't know anything. but her voice cracked, the perfect performance finally faltering. Meg. I know about the payments, the facility, the NDAs they all signed. I turned to Daniel. How long before Madison turns on you too? When you eventually try to date again, when you can't meet her demands. That's enough, he growled. But Madison was already backing away, her carefully constructed world unraveling. You said no one would find out, she whispered to her father. You promised they'd think Mom just left. Daniel's face went pale. Maddie, honey, I did it for you. Her voice rose hysterically. All of it. The basement, the emails, making them look crazy, just like you said Mom was crazy, so they'd leave us alone. The front door opened. Rachel stood there, her phone displaying the live recording. Behind her, Mrs. Peterson and 2 police officers. Madison's scream of rage would have been theatrical if it hadn't been so real this time. As the officers stepped forward, I saw her mask crack completely, revealing the broken child beneath the manipulator. I'm sorry, I said, though I wasn't sure to whom, the traumatized teenager, the enabler father, or the women before me, who hadn't escaped the basement's shadows. Sometimes winning feels exactly like losing. But as they led Madison and Daniel away, I realized this was never about winning. It was about breaking the cycle, even if it meant breaking everything else along with it. The basement door creaked as I pushed it open. Dust motes dancing in the beam of my flashlight. 6 months of legal battles, therapy sessions, and sleepless nights had led me back here to where it all began. Shadow wound between my legs as I descended the stairs, each step solid now that Daniel had removed the loose boards. Evidence for the investigation, they'd called it. Evidence of a family's slow collapse. You don't have to do this, Rachel said from the top of the stairs. The realtor can handle everything, but I did have to do this. The house would sell tomorrow, and I needed to face these shadows one last time. My flashlight caught the window, still painted shut, though investigators had photographed it extensively. Madison's first confession had opened a flood of revelations. Daniel's careful documentation of each wife's instability, the coordinated gaslighting, the way father and daughter had perfected their routine through years of practice. A newspaper clipping fluttered from between 2 boxes. Madison's tearful interview about her mother's abandonment. The truth had been harder to swallow. A woman who'd seen the darkness growing in her daughter, who'd tried to get her help, only to be labeled paranoid and dangerous by her own husband. Found something, Rachel called down. Just ghosts, I answered, moving deeper into the basement. My phone buzzed. Another email from Madison's therapist, requesting a meeting. I'd declined the previous 3. Some bridges couldn't be rebuilt, shouldn't be rebuilt. The last time I'd seen Madison, being led away in handcuffs, she'd looked so young, so broken. But I'd seen the calculation behind her tears, even then. A soft thump made me turn. Shadow had knocked over a box, spilling photos across the floor. I knelt to gather them, freezing when I recognized the faces. Daniel's previous wives, all smiling, all unaware of what awaited them. Each photo carefully dated, documented, like exhibits in a case that would never see trial. Sienna, a new voice from upstairs. You okay down there? Ethan, not the ally I'd thought, but not quite the enemy either. His own stepdaughter had reached out during the investigation, sharing a similar story of manipulation and gaslighting. He'd been trying to warn me, in his way, though his methods had nearly destroyed me. Almost done, I called back, but my hand shook as I picked up the final photo. Madison and Daniel, taken just days before I'd moved in. Their smiles held secrets I hadn't been equipped to read. Something scratched inside the wall. Shadow's ears perked up, his tail puffing. I shifted my flashlight beam, catching a glimpse of movement through a crack in the foundation. The basement had always held secrets, but some were better left buried. I gathered the photos and documents, more evidence for the growing case file. Daniel's trial would start next month, though Madison's juvenile hearings had already begun. Their perfect facade had crumbled, revealing the rot beneath. Ready? Rachel asked as I emerged, blinking in the bright light of the kitchen. Almost, I moved through the house one last time, shadow at my heels. Each room held memories of a life I'd tried to build, of a family that had never really existed. In my office, I retrieved the final item, my laptop, still containing the recordings that had exposed everything. At the front door, I paused. The house felt different now, its shadows less threatening, its secrets laid bare. But as I turned to leave, Shadow suddenly hissed, his gaze fixed on something upstairs. I followed his line of sight to Madison's bedroom window. For a moment, I could have sworn I saw a face, young, tear-streaked, calculating. But it was just a trick of the light, a reflection of what I'd learned about family, about revenge, about the fine line between justice and destruction. "Goodbye, Shadow," I whispered, but he'd already slipped away into the darkness of the house, choosing to keep his own counsel about which secrets to keep and which to reveal. I locked the door one final time, leaving the key under the mat for the realtor. As I walked away, I didn't look back at the house or its basement full of shadows. Some stories don't need an ending to be finished. They just need fame, just need to be survived.
The invitation sat on my kitchen counter like a ticking bomb. "You are cordially invited to celebrate the union of Alexis and Nolan." I read those words 20 times, each repetition feeling like a knife twisting deeper into my chest. My sister and my ex-husband. The universe really does have a sick sense of humor. I'm Peyton, and 6 months ago, my biggest concern was whether to repaint my living room sage or olive green. Now, I'm standing here, holding an invitation that's shattered my entire world. "You need to come to dinner tonight," my mother had said on the phone this morning, her voice carrying that familiar tone of forced cheerfulness. Both girls together, like old times. Old times. Before Nolan. Before the divorce. Before my sister became the other woman. The rest of dinner passed in a blur of wedding talk and forced pleasantries. As I drove home later, that note burned a hole in my pocket. A.M. The initials sparked something in my memory, a name I'd seen on some paperwork during the divorce proceedings. I pulled into my driveway and sat there, engine idling. The old Peyton would have cried herself to sleep tonight. The old Peyton would have accepted this betrayal as her lot in life. But I'm not the old Peyton anymore. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the number I needed. It rang twice before a familiar voice answered. "Theo, it's me. Remember when you said you knew a good private investigator? I need that number, now." "You're telling me you found this in your mom's bathroom?" Theo pushed his coffee aside and leaned closer to examine the note I'd found. We were sitting in our usual corner of the local cafe, away from curious ears. "It has to mean something, right?" I spread out several other papers on the small table. Old bank statements, tax documents, anything I'd kept from my marriage to Nolan. "AM keeps showing up in these transactions, but I can't figure out who they are." Theo ran his fingers through his dark curls, a habit he'd had since college. "And you're sure you want to go down this rabbit hole? Sometimes letting go is, he's marrying my sister, Theo." I cut him off, my voice sharper than intended. "This isn't about letting go anymore. This is about protecting her from whatever he's planning." Okay. He held up his hands in surrender. "I'll text you Manuel's number. He's the best PI I know, but he's intense." My phone buzzed with the contact. I stepped outside to make the call, pacing the sidewalk as it rang. "Manuel Kelly," a gruff voice answered. "Hi, I'm Peyton. Theo gave me your number. I need help investigating someone." "Meet me at Harrison's Diner in an hour. Bring everything you have." He hung up before I could respond. I turned to find Theo watching me through the cafe window, concern etched on his face. Back inside, I gathered my papers. "He wants to meet now." "I'm coming with you," Theo said, already standing. "You don't have to." "Yes, I do. Because the last time you had that look in your eyes, you ended up dyeing your hair pink and buying a motorcycle." That was 10 years ago, and I'm still traumatized. Harrison's Diner was nearly empty when we arrived. Manuel was easy to spot, a compact man with sharp eyes and a laptop that had seen better days. He gestured us over, without looking up from his screen. "Show me what you've got," he said as we slid into the booth. I spread everything out, explaining about the note and the mysterious AM. Manuel's fingers flew across his keyboard as I talked. "These transactions," he pointed to several entries on my old bank statements. "They're structured to stay just under reporting limits. Classic money laundering technique." My stomach lurched. "Money laundering? Your ex-husband's been busy." Manuel turned his laptop around. "Look familiar?" On the screen was a photo of Nolan shaking hands with a man outside an office building. The timestamp showed it was from last week. "That's Andrew Morrison," Manuel said. "He's been investigated twice for securities fraud, but nothing stuck. Want to guess what his initials are?" "AM," Theo whispered. My phone chimed. A text from Alexis. "Dress shopping tomorrow? Please come. I need my big sister." I showed it to Theo, who squeezed my hand under the table. "There's more," Manuel said, typing again. "Your ex-husband's name is connected to a shell corporation called Vertex Enterprises. Established 3 months before your divorce, primary shareholder is listed as AM Holdings." "How much would it cost to dig deeper?" I asked. Manuel named a figure that made me wince, but I nodded. "Do it." "Peyton," Theo started, but I shook my head. "I've got money saved. This is worth it." As we left the diner, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Is this Peyton?" A woman's voice, unfamiliar and nervous. I worked with Nolan at his old firm. There's something you should know about the offshore account." "What offshore account?" "The one in the Caymans, under his grandmother's maiden name. I shouldn't be calling, but when I heard he was getting married again, just check the transfers from March 15th. That's all I can say." The line went dead. Theo was watching me. "What was that about?" I found myself driving to my childhood home that evening, muscle memory guiding me through familiar streets while my mind raced. The moment I walked in, I knew something was wrong. The dining room table was set with Mom's best china, the set she only uses for special occasions. "Peyton!" Alexis rushed forward, practically bouncing. Her left hand was conspicuously hidden behind her back. "I'm so glad you came." "What's going on?" I asked, though deep down I already knew. I don't know," I said slowly, "but I think we just found our first real lead." My phone chimed again. Another text from Alexis. "Found the perfect place for dress shopping. Mom's coming too. Please say yes." I stared at the message, my throat tight. Tomorrow, I'd have to smile and ooh and ah over wedding dresses while knowing my sister's fiancé might be involved in serious financial crimes. "What are you going to do?" Theo asked softly. I typed back, "Wouldn't miss it. See you tomorrow." "I'm going to play along," I told Theo, my voice steady. "And while they're planning their perfect wedding, we're going to find out exactly what Nolan's been hiding." "We?" "Yes, we. Unless you've got better plans for the next few months?" Theo sighed dramatically. "Well, I was planning to finally learn macrame, but I suppose exposing your ex-husband's potential criminal empire takes priority." As we walked to our cars, Manuel's text arrived. "Found something interesting in Vertex's tax records. Meet tomorrow afternoon?" The game was on. "You're awfully quiet today," Mom said, arranging cookies on a plate while I sat at her kitchen counter. The same counter where I'd done my homework, shared secrets, and cried over my first breakup. Now it felt like neutral territory in a war I hadn't asked for. "Just tired." The dress shopping was intense. I picked up a cookie but didn't eat it. Watching Alexis try on wedding dresses had been like experiencing an out-of-body experience, surreal and slightly nauseating. "She looked beautiful in that lace one, didn't she?" Mom's voice softened. "You know, Nolan came by yesterday. He wanted to talk about father-daughter dance songs with your dad." The cookie crumbled in my grip. "Did Dad agree to see him?" "No," Mom sighed, wiping invisible crumbs from the counter. "He's still processing." "At least someone in this family is." "Peyton? Has Nolan mentioned anything about his new business ventures?" I tried to keep my voice casual. "Alexis said something about a new investment firm?" Mom's hands stilled. Something flickered across her face. Doubt? Worry? He's been very successful lately. Bought Alexis that beautiful ring cache. Said something about a big deal with some company. Vertex, I think. My heart skipped. Vertex? Yes, that's it, though. She lowered her voice, glancing around as if the walls might have ears. I overheard him on the phone last week. He sounded angry, talking about moving money around. When I asked, he said it was just work stress, but my phone buzzed. Manuel requesting an urgent meeting. Mom, I have to go. Work thing. I stood up, kissing her cheek. Thanks for the cookies. Peyton? She caught my arm. Be careful, sweetheart. Whatever you're doing, just be careful. I froze. What makes you think I'm doing anything? Because you're my daughter, and you've got that same look you had when you were 7 and caught your sister stealing from your piggy bank. You didn't confront her. You set up a sting operation with your stuffed animals as witnesses. Despite everything, I laughed. I forgot about that. Just remember, the truth always comes out. Sometimes it's just a matter of waiting for the right moment. 20 minutes later, I walked into Manuel's office, a small space above a laundromat that smelled faintly of fabric softener. Theo was already there, looking at something on Manuel's computer. Show her, Theo said without looking up. Manuel turned his monitor. Meet Andrew Morrison's wife, Amanda Morrison. The photo showed an elegant woman at a charity gala. Standing next to her was Nolan, his hand on her lower back, far too intimate for a business relationship. When was this taken? 2 months before your divorce. The pieces started falling into place. AM wasn't just Andrew Morrison, it was Amanda too. There's more, Manuel said, pulling up financial records. Vertex Enterprises has been moving large sums through various accounts. The pattern suggests they're collecting investments for a non-existent fund. A Ponzi scheme, Theo explained, seeing my confusion. And my sister's about to marry into it. I sank into a chair. How much money are we talking about? Mom appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. Sit down, honey. We're just waiting for one more person. The doorbell rang, and my stomach dropped. I heard his voice before I saw him. That smooth, confident tone that once made my knees weak. Now it just made me nauseous. Millions. Manuel's expression was grim. And based on these transactions, they're getting ready for something big. The wedding might be a cover, a way to appear stable and trustworthy to potential investors. My phone lit up with a text from Alexis. Nolan's planning a surprise engagement party next week. Don't tell Mom. Perfect timing, Manuel said, reading the message over my shoulder. Large gatherings of wealthy potential investors. We need concrete proof before then, I said. Something undeniable. Already working on it. Manuel pulled up another window. Remember that offshore account tip? Found it. The transactions on March 15th were interesting. Large transfers to an account belonging to one Amanda Morrison. The wife? Theo leaned forward. Why would Nolan be sending her money? Blackmail, maybe? I suggested. Or paying for silence? My phone buzzed again. Mom this time. Found something odd in the attic. Old papers of Nolan's from when you were married. Should I keep them? Tell her yes, Manuel said quickly. Those could be important. As I typed my response, another message came through, this one from an unknown number. Engagement party, back room of Morrison's office, 8 p.m., bring proof. Amanda, I breathed. It has to be. It's a trap, Theo warned. Or it's our chance. I looked at Manuel. Can you get me everything you have by next week? He nodded slowly. It'll cost extra for the rush. Do it. I stood up, suddenly energized. Theo, I need you to be my +1 at an engagement party. Wouldn't miss it. He grinned. Should I wear my I'm with the whistleblower t-shirt? For the first time in weeks, I felt like I was standing on solid ground. The truth was coming together, piece by piece. Now I just had to survive an engagement party long enough to expose it. Are you sure about this? Theo adjusted his tie as we sat in my car outside the upscale restaurant where the engagement party was being held. The manila envelope on my lap felt heavier than it should. No, I admitted, checking my lipstick in the rearview mirror. But we're doing it anyway. The valet took my keys, and we walked into LeBlanc, where Nolan had proposed to me 4 years ago. The irony wasn't lost on me. Peyton! Alexis rushed over, champagne in hand. You came, and you brought Theo! She hugged us both, the diamond ring on her finger catching the light. Nolan's just finishing up a business call. Come meet everyone. She dragged us through the crowd of well-dressed guests. I recognized several faces from Nolan's old firm, plus a few new ones who must be Vertex investors. Andrew Morrison stood near the bar, his wife Amanda beside him in a red dress that probably cost more than my car. 8 o'clock, Amanda mouthed when our eyes met, gesturing subtly toward a hallway. I need some air, I told Theo, patting the envelope hidden in my clutch. Cover for me? Be careful, he whispered, then loudly said, Don't forget your jacket in the car. I slipped down the hallway, following the signs to Morrison's private office. The door was unlocked. Amanda stood by the window, drinking straight from a bottle of expensive scotch. Close the door, she said without turning around. I did. Why help me? Because your sister isn't the only one being played. She turned, mascara slightly smudged. Show me what you have. I pulled out Manuel's documents. Bank transfers, shell companies, proof of the Ponzi scheme. But you already knew about that, didn't you? I knew something was wrong when Andrew started moving our personal assets offshore. She picked up the papers with manicured hands. Then I found out about Nolan and the others. Others? You think you were his first wife? Or that Alexis is his first affair? She laughed bitterly. It's their pattern. Find wealthy women, marry them, gain access to their family's money and connections, then divorce, hide the assets, and move on to the next target. My blood ran cold. Alexis doesn't have any money. Sorry, I'm late, Nolan said, stepping into the dining room. He looked exactly the same. Tall, well-dressed, with that perfectly maintained stubble that had once driven me wild. His eyes met mine for a brief moment before darting away. Now that everyone's here, Alexis practically squealed, finally bringing her left hand forward. The diamond caught the light, making me flinch. We're engaged! No, but your parents do. That trust fund they set up for your father's retirement? The one that matures next month? Amanda took another drink. Nolan's been forging documents to gain access. The wedding is just a formality. The door opened. Nolan stood there, his charming smile firmly in place. I thought I might find you here. Nolan, Amanda started. Save it. He closed the door behind him. Peyton, crashing your sister's engagement party? That's low, even for you. Not as low as stealing from my family. I grabbed the documents from Amanda. It's over, Nolan. I have proof of everything. Do you? He stepped closer. Because all I see is my bitter ex-wife conspiring with my business partner's alcoholic spouse to ruin her own sister's happiness. Who do you think people will believe? I found the note, I said, in Mom's bathroom, about the transfers with AM. Something flickered in his eyes. One cryptic note proves nothing, but the offshore accounts do, and the forged documents, and the other wives. You're bluffing. Try me. I pulled out my phone. One call to the SEC, and it all comes crashing down. He moved faster than I expected, grabbing my wrist. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Let her go. Theo stood in the doorway, phone raised. I've been recording everything. One wrong move, and this goes live to every guest out there. Nolan released me, straightening his tie. This isn't over. Actually, it is. Amanda stepped forward. Because I've been wearing a wire for the FBI for the past month. They have everything they need. The color drained from Nolan's face. In the distance, we could hear commotion from the main room. That would be the federal agents, Amanda said, suddenly sober. They're probably talking to Andrew right now. Nolan bolted for the door, but Theo blocked his path. Going somewhere? 2 FBI agents appeared behind Theo. Mr. Nolan, we need you to come with us. As they led him away, I turned to Amanda. Why didn't you tell me about the FBI? Couldn't risk it. Needed your investigation to play out naturally. She smiled sadly. Besides, I figured you deserved your own shot at justice. We walked back to the main room together. Alexis stood in the center, tears streaming down her face as agents interviewed guests. When she saw me, her expression crumpled. "Did you know?" she whispered. "About all of this?" I handed her the envelope. "I was trying to protect you." She stared at the documents, then at me, then back at the chaos around us. "I need a drink." "I know a place," Theo said gently. "And I think both of you could use one." As we left the restaurant, I glanced back at the scene we'd created. Sometimes I realized the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about exposing the truth, no matter how much it hurts. "He's out on bail!" Theo's voice crackled through my phone speaker 3 days after the engagement party. Manuel just called. Nolan's lawyers worked fast. I gripped my steering wheel tighter, watching Alexis's apartment building through my windshield. "Does she know?" "Not yet. Where are you?" "Outside her place. She's been dodging my calls." "Peyton, maybe give her some space." A tap on my window made me jump. Alexis stood there, arms crossed, looking like she hadn't slept in days. I hung up on Theo and got out of the car. "Stalking me now?" she asked. "We need to talk." "About how you ruined my life? Or about how you humiliated me in front of everyone I know?" "About how Nolan's out on bail." That got her attention. She glanced around the parking lot, suddenly nervous. "Come inside." Her apartment was a mess. Empty wine bottles, wedding magazines torn to shreds, and a half-packed suitcase in the corner. The engagement ring sat on the coffee table like a discarded piece of costume jewelry. "When did you know?" she asked, collapsing onto her couch. "About the fraud?" I suspected something was wrong when I found that note, but I didn't know how deep it went until— "No," she cut me off. "When did you know about us? About me and Nolan?" I sat across from her. "Christmas, when you both lied about being out of town." She laughed, but it sounded more like a sob. "You want to know the worst part? He told me you knew, said you were fine with it, that you'd moved on months ago. I believed him because I wanted to." "Why him, Alexis? Of all people?" The room spun. Mom was beaming. Nolan had the decency to look slightly uncomfortable. Alexis kept talking, but her words became white noise. That's wonderful," I managed to choke out, gripping my water glass so hard I thought it might shatter. "We wanted you to be the first to know," Alexis said, reaching for Nolan's hand across the table. "You're my sister, Pei. Your blessing means everything to me." "Because he was yours!" she exploded, standing up. "Your perfect husband, your perfect life. Do you know what it's like being the screw-up sister? The one who can't hold down a relationship or a job? The one mom's always worried about?" "Is that what you think? That my life was perfect?" I stood too, anger finally breaking through. "He cheated on me with 3 different women before you. He emptied our joint accounts. He made me feel crazy for suspecting anything." "I didn't know," she whispered. "About the other women. About any of it." "Because you didn't want to know." The words came out harsher than intended. My phone buzzed. A text from Manuel. "Nolan spotted heading your way. Get out now." "We need to leave," I said, showing her the message. "I'm not going anywhere with you." "Alexis, please!" A knock at the door made us both freeze. "Alexis!" Nolan's voice. "Baby, I can explain everything." Alexis moved toward the door, but I grabbed her arm. "Don't. Let go of me. He's using you to get to Mom and Dad's trust fund. The wedding was just a cover." The knocking got louder. "I know you're in there. Both of you. We need to talk." Alexis yanked her arm free. "Maybe I want to hear his side." "His side?" "The FBI has recordings, bank statements, testimonies from other women he's scammed. What more do you need?" "You don't understand," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I love him." "No, you love who you thought he was, just like I did." The door handle jiggled. Nolan must have kept a key. I grabbed Alexis's hand. "Fire escape, now!" For a moment, I thought she'd refuse. Then the door started to open, and she ran with me to the window. We climbed out just as Nolan entered the apartment. "Alexis!" he called after us. "Don't listen to her. She's trying to turn you against me." We clattered down the metal stairs, my heels making too much noise. I could hear him following. "My car's around the corner," I panted. "Wait." Alexis stopped suddenly. "The ring. I left it inside." "Seriously? It's evidence, isn't it, of the fraud?" I stared at my sister, really looked at her, and for the first time in months, I saw the sharp, clever girl I grew up with. "Back entrance," she said. "He doesn't know about it." Through the laundry room. We doubled back, slipping through the building's service entrance. Alexis used her key to access the stairs, and we crept back up to her floor. "He'll be checking the street," she whispered as we eased her apartment door open. The ring still sat on the coffee table. Alexis grabbed it, along with a stack of papers from her desk. His investment proposals. The ones he wanted me to show Dad. Footsteps thundered down the hallway. We ducked into her bedroom just as Nolan re-entered the apartment. Think, I muttered, looking around. My eyes landed on her closet, and the access panel to the neighboring unit I knew was empty. As Nolan's footsteps approached the bedroom, I pulled Alexis toward the closet. For the first time since this whole mess began, we moved in perfect sync, like when we were kids playing hide and seek. Maybe that's what we needed, to remember who we were before Nolan came between us. "You girls did what?" Mom's voice echoed through her kitchen as Alexis and I sat at the familiar counter, still breathless from our escape. We'd crawled through the access panel, sprinted down 3 flights of stairs, and driven straight here. "We had to," Alexis said, spreading out the investment documents we'd grabbed. "Look at these, Mom. The signature at the bottom. It's Dad's. But he never signed these." Mom adjusted her reading glasses, hands trembling slightly as she examined the papers. "These are dated last week. Your father was in the hospital for his knee surgery then." "Exactly." I pulled out my phone, showing her the photos Manuel had sent. Nolan's been forging signatures, setting up fake investment accounts. The wedding was just a way to get closer to the family money. "I should have seen it," Alexis whispered. "All those meetings he wanted with Dad about investment opportunities. The way he kept asking about the trust fund." The doorbell rang, making us all jump. "Back door," Mom said immediately, her voice steady. "Go, I'll handle this." "Mom," I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "Excuse me, bathroom." I barely made it to the upstairs bathroom before the tears came. Leaning against the sink, I caught my reflection in the mirror, pale, shocked, betrayed. My hand brushed against something as I reached for a tissue. A small box had fallen from the medicine cabinet, spilling its contents across the counter. "Now, girls." We slipped out through the kitchen just as Mom opened the front door. Nolan's voice drifted through the house. "Andrea, I'm so sorry to bother you, but I'm looking for Alexis. There's been a terrible misunderstanding." We crouched behind Mom's garden shed, listening. "She's not here, Nolan." Mom's voice was ice cold. "And if she was, I wouldn't tell you. Andrea, please, you know me. I love your daughter." "Which one?" Silence. "That's what I thought." Mom's voice grew stronger. "I've called my lawyer. He's reviewing everything. The forged documents, the fake accounts, all of it. Leave my family alone, or the FBI won't be your only problem." The shed door creaked open behind us. We spun around to find Theo. "Jesus!" I hissed. "What are you doing here?" "Manuel called, said Nolan was making the rounds. I figured you'd come here." He peeked around the corner. "Nice speech from your mom." "We need to get somewhere safe," Alexis said. "He's not going to stop." "My place," Theo offered. "He doesn't know where I live." We heard the front door slam, followed by a car engine starting. "Girls," Mom called softly. "Coast is clear." Back in the kitchen, Mom was already on the phone. "Yes, Detective Roberts. He was just here. Yes, I understand the restraining order won't be processed until Monday." Alexis grabbed my arm suddenly. The wedding venue. What? I never canceled it. The deposit, the guest list, everything's still set for next Saturday. Her eyes were wide. He's been calling all morning about keeping the date. Why would he care about the venue now? Theo asked. The answer hit me like a truck. The investors. He invited all of Vertex's biggest investors to the wedding. It's his last chance to collect money before everything falls apart. Mom hung up the phone. The detective says they're building their case, but it could take weeks. We don't have weeks, Alexis said. We have 7 days. Theo pulled out his laptop. Manuel sent over everything he has on the wedding guests. Look, half of them are high-net-worth individuals connected to Vertex. He's going to take their money and run, I realized. The wedding was never going to happen. It was just a cover for one final investment meeting. Then we use it against him, Alexis said firmly. Keep the venue. Let him think it's still happening. Alexis, no, Mom started. Yes! She stood straighter, looking more like herself than she had in months. He used me to get to this family. Let me help take him down. My phone buzzed. Amanda. FBI moving too slow. Nolan planning something big at wedding. Need your help. I showed them the message. It's dangerous, Theo warned. So is letting him do this to another family, Alexis countered. She turned to me. I know I have no right to ask for your help after everything. Stop. I grabbed her hand. You're my sister. We're doing this together. Mom sighed heavily. Your father is going to kill me for this, but... She pulled out her phone. I'm calling in a favor from Uncle Jack at the security firm. Theo was already typing. I'll contact Manuel, get everything set up. One condition, I said to Alexis. No more secrets between us. Ever. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Never again. We spent the next hour planning, turning the wedding venue into a trap. As we worked, I realized something. Revenge hadn't brought me peace, but working with my sister to expose the truth? That felt like justice. The wedding was still on, but this time, we were writing the ending. The Grand Plaza Hotel's ballroom sparkled with wedding decorations, each crystal and flower hiding a carefully placed camera or microphone. I adjusted my earpiece, disguised as a pearl earring, and smoothed down my bridesmaid's dress. Testing, testing! Theo's voice crackled in my ear. Everyone online? Copy, Manuel responded from his position at the bar, posing as a server. Ready? Came Amanda's voice. She sat with the other guests, wearing a wire beneath her designer dress. Security team in position, Uncle Jack confirmed. FBI standing by, Detective Roberts added. I watched Alexis pace in the bridal suite, still in her wedding dress. You don't have to go through with this, I told her. Yes, I do. She checked her makeup one last time. Did you see how many people are out there? All those potential investors, their life savings at risk. We have to stop him. Among the scattered items was a folded piece of paper. I recognized Nolan's handwriting immediately. Transfer complete. AM confirmed receipt. Everything's set for Phase 2. Just keep playing your part. The note was dated 3 months before our divorce. A knock at the door made me jump. Peyton? It was Mom. Are you okay, sweetie? I quickly pocketed the note. Fine, I called back, splashing cold water on my face. Just needed a minute. Heads up, Theo cut in. Nolan just arrived. He's gathering investors in the hotel's conference room. That's not part of the plan, I said. The evidence handoff was supposed to happen during the ceremony. Change of plans. Amanda's voice was tense. He's spooked, wants to collect the money before the wedding starts. Alexis grabbed my hand. We need to move now. No, I squeezed her hand back. Let me handle this. You've done enough. Peyton, trust me, please. She nodded slowly. I slipped out of the bridal suite and made my way to the conference room, my heels silent on the plush carpet. Through the partially open door, I could hear Nolan's smooth sales pitch. Guaranteed returns of 20% annually, but this exclusive opportunity closes today. I pushed the door open. 30 pairs of eyes turned to me. Sorry I'm late, I said brightly. Did I miss the part where you explain how you're using my sister's wedding as a front for investment fraud? Nolan's smile never wavered. Peyton, always the dramatic one. Everyone, my ex-wife seems to be having trouble letting go. Actually, I pulled out my phone. I'm having trouble understanding these bank statements. You know, the ones showing how you emptied joint accounts? Or these documents with my father's forged signature? Murmurs rippled through the crowd. She's obviously disturbed, Nolan said smoothly. Security? Oh, you mean Uncle Jack's team? I smiled. They're with us, along with the FBI agents posing as wedding guests. The door opened again. Amanda walked in, followed by Detective Roberts and 2 other agents. It's over, Nolan, Amanda said. They have everything. The offshore accounts, the forged documents, testimonies from your previous victims. Oh, previous victims? A well-dressed woman stood up. What previous victims? Show them. I nodded to Theo, who had slipped in behind me. He projected documents onto the conference room wall. Bank records, court files, photos. Evidence of Nolan's past marriages, divorces, and frauds. This is ridiculous. Nolan moved toward the door, but Uncle Jack's security team blocked his path. The money, an elderly man demanded. The investments we made today. Where is it? Already traced, Detective Roberts said. Being transferred to accounts in the Caymans as we speak. Or it would be, if we hadn't frozen everything an hour ago. Nolan lunged for the other door, but Manuel was there, tackling him smoothly to the ground. Nice move, I commented. Former linebacker, Manuel grunted, keeping Nolan pinned. The ballroom doors burst open. Alexis stood there in her wedding dress, looking like an avenging angel. You forgot something, she said, walking toward Nolan. She pulled out a small recorder. Your confession from last night. Nolan's face went white. What confession? She pressed play. His voice filled the room. Of course I don't love her. She's just a means to an end, like her sister was. Once I have their father's money. The recording continued, detailing every aspect of his scheme. I watched the last of his composure crumble as Detective Roberts read him his rights. The ring, Alexis said coldly, pulling it off her finger. I believe this belongs to the FBI now. Evidence of funds obtained through fraud. As agents led Nolan away, the investors crowded around Detective Roberts, demanding answers about their money. Amanda began explaining the recovery process. Well, Theo appeared beside me. That was more exciting than your average wedding. Speaking of which, I looked at Alexis. What do you want to do about all this? I gestured at the decorated ballroom. She looked around at the flowers, the ribbons, the waiting chairs. Then she smiled. A real, genuine smile I hadn't seen in months. Let's have a party, she said. Not a wedding. A celebration of justice and family. I'll alert the DJ, Theo grinned. As guests began filtering in from the conference room, Mom and Dad appeared, hugging us both. My girls, Mom whispered. My brave, brilliant girls. The truth had finally set us all free. I still can't believe you turned your failed wedding into a justice-served party, Theo said, helping me hang the last of the fairy lights in Mom's backyard. The summer evening was perfect for our family's first proper gathering since Nolan's arrest. When I returned to the dining room, Alexis was showing Mom her Pinterest wedding boards on her phone. Nolan watched me carefully as I sat down. So, I said, forcing a smile that felt like broken glass, how long has this been going on? We reconnected at Christmas, Alexis said quickly. Too quickly. It just happened. Oh, better than letting all that food and champagne go to waste. Alexis called from the patio, where she was arranging platters. She'd traded her wedding dress for jeans and looked more like herself than she had in months. My phone buzzed. A text from Detective Roberts. Nolan took the plea deal. 15 years. No parole for 10. Thought you'd want to know. I showed the message to Alexis. Good, she said firmly. The restitution hearings start next week, right? Amanda's testifying first, I confirmed. She's helping track down his other victims. Mom emerged from the house carrying her famous lasagna. Less talk about him, more help with these dishes. The backyard slowly filled with people who'd supported us through everything. Manuel chatting with Uncle Jack about security techniques, Amanda showing Dad photos of her new private investigation firm, friends and family who'd chosen sides and stuck by us. Package for Peyton? A delivery woman appeared at the gate. I signed for the small box, opening it to find a single key and a note. For the sister who never gave up. Love, A. Inside was the key to Amanda's office. She'd offered me a job as her partner. Take it, Alexis said, reading over my shoulder. You're good at this, uncovering the truth, helping people. What about you? I asked. Have you decided about the job offer? She grinned. Started Monday. Turns out financial fraud investigation units love hiring people with first-hand experience of investment scams. My daughters, the crime-fighting duo, Mom sighed, but she was smiling. Just promise me no more undercover operations at family events. No promises, we said in unison, then laughed. Really laughed, like we used to before everything went wrong. Theo clinked his glass. If I could have everyone's attention, I'd like to propose a toast. Everyone gathered around as he continued. To the strongest family I know, to truth that comes to light, to sisters who have each other's backs, and to justice that's better than revenge. To justice, everyone echoed. And to new beginnings, Amanda added, raising her glass. The FBI task force wants our help on another case, something about a series of wedding planner scams. Already on it, Manuel called out, waving his laptop. Got some interesting leads. See? Theo nudged me. The universe has a sense of humor after all. Dad cleared his throat. While we're making announcements, your mother and I have decided to start a foundation for victims of financial fraud. We're calling it Truth Funds. Really? Alexis's eyes widened. Really? Mom confirmed. And we'd like you both to help run it. If you're interested. I looked at Alexis, seeing in her eyes the same mix of emotions I felt. Gratitude for where we'd ended up, relief at having our family whole again, excitement for what came next. One condition, I said. We do it together. No more secrets, no more competition. Deal! Alexis hugged me tight. Partners? Partners! The party continued into the night, fairy lights twinkling like stars. I found myself by the old tree swing, watching everyone mingle and laugh. Penny, for your thoughts? Theo joined me, offering a glass of champagne. Just thinking about that note I found in Mom's bathroom, how something so small led to all of this. Sometimes the smallest truths unlock the biggest lies, he said. Speaking of which, he pulled out an envelope. Manuel found these today. Thought you should see them. Inside were photos of Nolan with another woman, dated before he'd even met me. There's always another secret with him, isn't there? I sighed. But the photos didn't hurt anymore. They just felt like confirmation that we'd done the right thing. Peyton! Alexis! Amanda called. Come see what we found. We joined the group gathered around Manuel's laptop, where a familiar pattern of transactions was emerging on the screen. Look familiar? He asked. Very. Alexis leaned closer. Same setup as Vertex? Similar, Amanda nodded. Different players, same game. I felt that familiar spark of determination. Well then, what are we waiting for? Hold up, Mom interrupted. First dessert, then you can save the world. As we gathered around the table, passing plates of Mom's tiramisu, I realized something. Sometimes the happy ending isn't about getting everything you thought you wanted. Sometimes it's about discovering what you were meant to do all along. Christmas, when I was in Chicago for work. When Nolan was supposedly in Seattle on business. When Alexis told me she was too busy to meet up for our traditional sisters' holiday lunch. Sometimes the heart wants what it wants, Nolan added softly, and I wanted to scream at the audacity. Instead, I took a sip of wine and said, well, I hope you're both very happy. And sometimes it's about finding out that your sister isn't just your sister. She's your best ally in the fight for truth. Ready for our next adventure? Alexis whispered. I squeezed her hand. Always.
The morning of my wedding, I found my wedding dress shredded to pieces in the bridal suite. Delicate white lace lay scattered across the floor like fallen snow, and the pearl beading I'd hand-sewn was ripped apart, each tiny bead rolling away from me like tears. I stood there in my silk robe, frozen, unable to process what I was seeing. My name is Holly, and that was just the beginning of how my sister Samantha destroyed what should have been the happiest day of my life. "Oh my God, Holly!" Layla burst through the door, her bridesmaid dress swishing around her knees. "You need to see what's happening downstairs." I followed her down the grand staircase of the venue we'd spent months choosing. The whispers hit me before I saw anything else. Guests huddled in small groups, their faces a mix of shock and pity. My mother stood in the center of the room, her hand pressed against her mouth, while my father argued with someone from the catering company. "I'm so sorry, but we received a call cancelling the entire order," the caterer was saying. "It came from the bride's number." "That's impossible," I said, stepping forward. "I never—" "Holly." Brian's voice cut through the chaos. My fiancé stood by the entrance, his best man beside him. His face was ashen. "We need to talk, now." He led me to a quiet corner, his hands trembling as he pulled out his phone. "I've been getting these messages all morning, from different numbers, and screenshots of conversations." The screen showed dozens of texts, all containing screenshots of what looked like intimate conversations between me and my ex-boyfriend. Conversations that never happened, photos that were clearly edited, but they looked real enough to plant doubt. "Tell me these aren't real," Brian whispered. "Of course they're not real. Brian, you know me." I thought I did. He stepped back, running a hand through his hair. But then Samantha showed me. My blood ran cold. "Samantha, what does my sister have to do with this?" "She came to me this morning, Holly. Said she couldn't keep quiet anymore. Showed me evidence of you, meeting him, planning to leave me after getting access to my accounts. The pieces started falling into place. The shredded dress, the cancelled catering, the perfectly timed revelation of fake messages, all orchestrated by my own sister. "Where is she?" I demanded, scanning the room. But Samantha was nowhere to be seen. "Holly," Layla appeared at my side, her phone in hand. "It's worse. Someone's posted all these accusations online. They're going viral in our social circle." The room started spinning. 200 guests, our families, friends, colleagues, all witness to this humiliation, all believing these lies. "Brian, please," I reached for his hand. "You know this isn't true. We've been together for 3 years. You know me." He pulled away, his eyes full of doubt. "I need time to think. I'm sorry, Holly, I can't do this today." I watched him walk away, his best man following close behind. The whispers grew louder. Phone cameras pointed in my direction. My mother approached, tears streaming down her face. "Why didn't you tell me you were having doubts?" she asked, her voice breaking. "Mom, this is all fake. Can't you see? Samantha did this." "Don't blame your sister," she sighed. "She's only trying to protect the family from scandal." That's when I saw her. Samantha stood at the top of the stairs, wearing a concerned expression that didn't quite reach her eyes. Our gazes met, and for a split second, her mask slipped. The corner of her mouth twitched into a smirk before she quickly covered it with her hand. "I think we should start asking guests to leave," my father announced, his voice heavy with disappointment. I stood in the middle of the chaos, watching my perfect day crumble around me. Years of planning, destroyed in hours. My relationship, shattered by carefully crafted lies. My reputation, in tatters. Layla squeezed my hand. "What do you want to do?" I took a deep breath, straightening my spine. Through the tears threatening to fall, I looked up at Samantha one more time. She thought she'd broken me. She thought this was her moment of triumph. "I want everyone out," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "And then I want to start planning." "Planning what?" I turned to my best friend, a new resolve burning in my chest. "My comeback. Samantha thinks she's won, but she has no idea what she just started. This isn't over. Not by a long shot. 3 months after my ruined wedding, I sat across from Layla at our favorite coffee shop, spreading out business cards and brochures across the small table. You're really serious about this wedding planning thing? Layla stirred her latte, eyeing the materials skeptically. Most people would avoid anything wedding-related after what happened. Most people haven't had their sister destroy their wedding in spectacular fashion. I tapped one of the business cards. Look, I already have my first client booked. Through your mother's friend, Layla pointed out. Are you sure you're ready? The bell above the shop door chimed, and I instinctively ducked my head. Ever since that day, I'd developed a habit of avoiding eye contact in public places. The whispers had finally started to die down, but the humiliation still lingered. I have to be ready, I said, straightening up. I can't hide forever. Besides, who better to plan a wedding than someone who knows exactly how one can go wrong? Layla's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and grimaced. Speaking of wrong, Samantha just posted another vacation photo with Tyler. They look disgustingly happy. Delete her from your social media, I said firmly. I did it the day after the wedding. Your mum keeps asking when you'll talk to her again. I gathered my papers into a neat pile. Maybe when hell freezes over, or when she admits what she did, whichever comes first. The next morning, I stood in front of my first clients, a young couple who'd been engaged for 6 months. The bride, Jessica, clutched a wedding magazine while her fiancé, Marcus, looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. So, I began, tell me about your dream wedding. Well, Jessica leaned forward. I want something unique. Everyone does beach weddings or garden parties. I want people to remember our day. I fought back a bitter laugh. Trust me, I know all about memorable weddings. Oh, Jessica's eyes widened. Weren't you the one who now runs the most detail-oriented wedding planning service in the city? I cut in smoothly. Yes, that's me. And I can guarantee that every aspect of your wedding will be triple-checked and secured. 2 hours later, I had my first contract signed. As I walked to my car, my phone rang. It was Brian. My heart stuttered. We hadn't spoken since that day. Hello? My voice came out steadier than I felt. Holly? He sounded tired. I've been doing a lot of thinking about everything that happened. I leaned against my car, legs suddenly weak. And? I should have trusted you, should have known better than to believe those messages. I've been looking into it, and there's evidence they were manipulated. I tried to tell you that 3 months ago. I know. He paused. I miss you, Holly. The words I'd dreamed of hearing for months, but instead of joy, I felt something else. Strength. I'm sorry, Brian, but I can't go backward. You didn't trust me when it mattered most. I'm building something new now. That evening, I met with Layla at her apartment. She opened the door to find me grinning. Okay, what happened? You look like you just won the lottery. I flopped onto her couch. I signed my first clients and turned down Brian when he called to reconcile. He called. Layla sat down hard. What did he say? That he should have trusted me. But you know what? In a weird way, I'm grateful for what happened. It showed me who really had my back. Layla handed me a glass of wine. Speaking of having your back, your mom called me. Samantha's engaged to Tyler. The wine glass froze halfway to my lips. Already? The wedding's in a year. Your mom wants you to be there. I set the glass down carefully. Of course she does, because heaven forbid we don't pretend to be one big happy family. Are you going to go? I stood up and walked to Layla's window, looking out at the city lights. Below, a wedding party spilled out of a restaurant, their laughter floating up to us. The bride's white dress glowed under the streetlights. You know what? I turned back to Layla. I think I will, but not as the bitter, betrayed sister. I'm going to go as the best damn wedding planner this city has ever seen. By then, everyone will know my name for the right reasons. Layla raised her eyebrows. That's either the healthiest or most terrifying response you could have given. I picked up my wine glass and smiled. Why not both? To new beginnings. To new beginnings, Layla echoed, and to karma being a patient friend. Remember when Samantha cut up your favorite dress before your 8th grade dance? Layla asked, helping me sort through old family photos. God, the pattern's been there all along. I picked up a photo of Samantha and me at that dance. Me in a hastily borrowed dress, her beaming in a designer gown. Mom always said I was being dramatic when I blamed her. Speaking of your mom, Layla held up her phone, showing me a text. She wants us both over for dinner tonight, says it's important. 6 hours later, we pulled up to my childhood home. Through the window, I could see my mother arranging flowers in the dining room. Her nervous habit. We can still leave, Layla offered. No, let's get this over with. Inside, my mother hugged me too tightly. Holly, sweetheart, and Layla, thank you both for coming. What's so important, Mom? She fidgeted with her necklace. Well, I thought we should talk about Samantha's engagement party next month. She wants you to... No. I cut her off. Whatever it is, no. She wants you to be her maid of honor. The room went silent. Even the old grandfather clock seemed to hold its breath. Are you kidding me? I laughed, but it came out harsh. After what she did? Holly, she's your sister. She feels terrible about your wedding, but... Feels terrible? Has she admitted what she did? Has she apologized? Mom's face crumpled. She says there's nothing to admit, that you're imagining things. Classic, Layla muttered. The doorbell rang, making us all jump. Mom's eyes widened. Oh, I should mention, Samantha and Tyler are joining us. Before I could react, I heard the front door open and Samantha's voice floating in. Mom, sorry we're late. She appeared in the doorway, Tyler behind her. She wore an expensive-looking dress and a massive engagement ring that caught the light like a disco ball. Holly! She rushed forward as if to hug me. I stepped back. Don't. Tyler shifted uncomfortably. Maybe we should give them space. No need, Samantha said brightly. Holly's just being dramatic, as usual. Dramatic? I felt my control slipping. Was I being dramatic when you destroyed my wedding dress? When you faked those messages? See, Samantha turned to our mother. She's still making up stories. Holly, I know you were stressed about the wedding, but blaming me for your cold feet is... Shut up. The words came out quiet but sharp. Just shut up. Girls, Mom pleaded, please. Can't we move past this? Samantha wants you in her wedding party, Holly. It's a chance to heal. A chance to what? I stood up. A chance for her to humiliate me again. To finish what she started. Holly, Tyler stepped forward. I know things are tense, but Samantha's told me how much she misses you. I looked at him. Really looked at him. He seemed genuine, kind even. Just like Brian had been. Tyler, has she told you what really happened at my wedding? Samantha's smile flickered. There's nothing to tell. Holly got cold feet and my phone buzzed. A text from Brian. We need to talk. It's about Samantha. I have proof. I showed the message to Layla, whose eyes widened. Well, I said, gathering my things. This has been enlightening. Mom, I'm sorry, but I won't be in Samantha's wedding party. I won't be at her wedding at all. You're just jealous, Samantha snapped, her perfect mask cracking. You can't stand that I'm happy, that I'm getting married when your wedding fell apart. I turned to her slowly. No, Samantha, I'm not jealous. I'm successful. I'm healing. And I'm done letting you gaslight me. Holly, Tyler called as I reached the door. Whatever happened between you two, can't you forgive her? For the family's sake. I looked back at my sister, at her expensive dress and her perfect makeup and her carefully constructed lies. Some things don't deserve forgiveness, Tyler. Some things need consequences. Outside, Layla grabbed my arm. What did Brian say he has proof of? I showed her the rest of the message. Found the person who helped her fake those screenshots. They're willing to talk. Holy shit, Layla breathed. What are you going to do? I watched through the window as Samantha comforted our crying mother, playing the role of the wounded, misunderstood sister perfectly. I'm going to wait, I said. Let her plan her perfect wedding. Let her think she's won. And then we'll see who's being dramatic. And that's how we saved the Anderson wedding after the venue flooded, I concluded, watching the young couple across my desk exchange impressed glances. No crisis is too big when you're prepared. My phone buzzed. Another 5-star review posted online. In 6 months, I'd become the city's go-to wedding planner for crisis management. Ironic, considering my own wedding disaster. After the clients left, Sawyer poked his head into my office. As one of the few mutual friends who'd stayed neutral during the fallout with Samantha, he'd recently started referring clients to me. Hey, got a minute? He closed the door behind him. There's something you should know about Samantha's engagement. I gestured to the chair. I'm listening. Tyler's ex-girlfriend reached out to me, says Samantha started pursuing him while they were still together, used some familiar tactics. My stomach dropped. What kind of tactics? Fake messages, edited photos. Sound familiar? Before I could respond, my phone rang. Brian's name flashed on the screen. Sorry, I need to take this. I waited until Sawyer left. Brian? I met with the guy, he said without preamble. The one who helped Samantha fake those messages. He kept receipts, Holly. Everything. I gripped the edge of my desk. Why is he coming forward now? Apparently, she never paid him the full amount she promised. He's bitter. A knock at my door interrupted us. Layla entered, waving an envelope. You got your official invitation to the wedding of the year, she said sarcastically. I'll call you back, I told Brian. Layla handed me the cream-colored envelope. Inside was an elaborate invitation with gold foil details. Classic Samantha, always having to outdo everyone. Are you going to RSVP? Layla asked. My phone pinged with a text from Sawyer. Tyler's ex wants to meet, says there's more you should know. Yes, I said, reaching for my phone. I think I will. 2 days later, I sat across from Maria, Tyler's ex, in a quiet cafe. She looked nervous, stirring her coffee without drinking it. I thought I was crazy, she said. The messages seemed so real. Tyler swore he never sent them, but there they were, time-stamped and everything. Then I saw what happened at your wedding, and it clicked. Did you tell Tyler? She shook her head. He wouldn't believe me. Samantha had already convinced him I was unstable, jealous. Sound familiar? My phone lit up with another text from Brian. Meeting set with the tech guy tomorrow. You should be there. Holly, Maria leaned forward. There's something else. The timing of their engagement. It's not what everyone thinks. What do you mean? They got engaged the week before your wedding. Samantha made Tyler keep it secret, said she didn't want to steal your thunder. I felt the blood drain from my face. She was engaged. When she destroyed my wedding, she wanted both spotlights, yours and hers, but she couldn't handle sharing the attention. Back at my office, I found Layla waiting with lunch. You look like you've seen a ghost, she said, handing me a sandwich. More like I've seen the truth. I filled her in on Maria's revelation. That's sick, Layla muttered. So what's your plan? I pulled out Samantha's wedding invitation. First, I'm going to RSVP yes. Then I'm meeting with Brian and this tech guy tomorrow. And then I'm going to plan the perfect wedding gift for my dear sister. My phone rang. Samantha's number. I put it on speaker. Holly, you RSVP'd yes. Mum's going to be so happy. Wouldn't miss it for the world, I said sweetly. I know we've had our differences, but this means so much to me. Maybe you could even help with some of the planning. You're so good at it now. I caught Layla's eye. She was making gagging motions. Actually, I said, I'd love to help. I've learned so much about what can go wrong at weddings and how to prevent it. Perfect. Let's have lunch tomorrow. Just us sisters. Sorry, I have an important meeting tomorrow, but soon. After hanging up, Layla stared at me. You're playing with fire. I picked up the invitation, running my finger over the embossed date. No, I'm playing her game, and this time I know all the rules. My phone buzzed again, a text from Maria. Found the original messages. The ones she deleted. Still want to see them? Yes, I typed back. Every single one. The pieces were falling into place. Samantha wanted a perfect wedding. I'd make sure she got exactly what she deserved. The tech guy, who introduced himself only as Jake, spread printouts across the coffee shop table. Brian sat beside me, his jaw clenching as he reviewed the evidence. These are the original message logs, Jake explained, pointing to timestamps. See how they don't match the screenshots Samantha distributed? That's because she used software to create fake conversations and backdate them. And you helped her do this? I asked. Jake shifted uncomfortably. She paid well. Or was supposed to. Said it was just a prank between sisters. Some prank, Brian muttered. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Samantha's trying on wedding dresses today. Please come. She misses you. There's more, Jake said, pulling out his laptop. The email she sent to your caterers and vendors, cancelling services. I tracked the IP addresses, all from her home computer. Can you prove it was her specifically? Brian asked. Better. I have the original emails she sent me asking how to do it. A new message popped up, this time from Maria. Found something interesting about Tyler's company. Your sister's been busy. Before I could respond, the coffee shop door chimed. I looked up to see my mother walking in. Holly, I thought that was your car outside. She spotted Brian and froze. Oh, I didn't realize. Jake quickly gathered his papers. I'll email you everything, he whispered before slipping away. Mom, I stood up. What are you doing here? Looking for you. The bridal shop is just down the street. Samantha's trying on dresses and... I'm in a meeting. I cut her off, gesturing to Brian. Mom's eyes narrowed. Are you two? No, Brian said firmly. We're dealing with something else. Something about your other daughter. What's that supposed to mean? I pulled out one of Jake's printouts. Maybe you should see this, Mom. Remember how you never believed me about Samantha? She took the paper hesitantly. I watched her face change as she read. Confusion, shock, denial, and finally, devastating realization. This can't be real, she whispered. It is. And there's more, so much more. Mum sank into a chair. Why would she do this? Because she's always been jealous, Brian said. Because she couldn't stand Holly being happy. My phone buzzed again. Maria had sent a document, financial records showing suspicious transfers from Tyler's company accounts, all traced back to Samantha. Mom, I said gently, there's something else you should know, about when Samantha really got engaged. 20 minutes later, my mother sat in stunned silence, tears rolling down her cheeks. All these years, she said finally, all the times you tried to tell me, I always defended her. You wanted to believe the best about your daughter. I have 2 daughters, she said sharply, and I failed to protect one of them. My phone lit up with a call from Sawyer. Holly, we have a problem. Samantha knows you're gathering evidence. She's trying to get ahead of the story. How? She's telling people you're having a breakdown, that you're obsessed with ruining her wedding because you're jealous. She's even talked to some of your clients. I felt the blood drain from my face. My clients? Check your business email. I pulled out my laptop, opened my inbox, and felt my stomach drop. 3 cancellations, all citing concerns about recent revelations. She's trying to destroy my business, I said numbly. Mom stood up suddenly. No, not this time. I'm going to that bridal shop right now. Mom, wait. I've waited long enough. It's time I stopped enabling her and started being a mother to both my daughters. After she left, Brian touched my hand. What are you going to do? I opened Maria's document about Tyler's company. I'm going to make sure the truth comes out. All of it. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from Samantha herself. Heard you've been asking questions, little sister. Remember what happened last time you tried to stand up to me? Back off, or your business won't be the only thing you lose. I showed the message to Brian. His face hardened. She's threatening you now? No, I said, standing up. She's making her last mistake. She thinks she can still control the narrative, but she forgot something important. What's that? I gathered the evidence, a plan forming in my mind. I plan weddings for a living now. I know how to create moments people never forget. I texted Layla, "Get ready. It's time to plan Samantha's perfect day, every last detail." Her response came instantly. Should I be scared or excited? Both, I wrote back. Definitely both. She did what? I stared at my mother across her kitchen table, coffee forgotten between us. Threw a complete tantrum at the bridal shop, Mom said, rubbing her temples. When I confronted her about the evidence, she knocked over 3 wedding dresses and accused me of always loving you more. Classic deflection, Layla muttered from her spot by the counter. Tyler was there, Mom continued. He looked confused, started asking questions about what evidence we were talking about. My phone buzzed, another client cancellation. That made 5 now. She's systematically destroying everything I've built, I said, showing Mom the email. Just like she did with my wedding. The doorbell rang. Mom went to answer it, returning with Tyler behind her. "Holly," he said, looking uncomfortable. "Can we talk?" Layla straightened. "I'll stay." "It's okay," I told her. "Give us a minute." Once we were alone, Tyler paced the kitchen. "Samantha's been crying all night, says you're trying to ruin her wedding because you're jealous. But then your mom mentioned evidence, and Maria called me." "What did Maria tell you?" "That Samantha broke us up. That she used the same tactics she allegedly used at your wedding." He ran a hand through his hair. "I don't know what to believe." I pulled out my phone, opened the folder with Jake's evidence. Believe this, 20 minutes later, Tyler sat with his head in his hands. The company accounts. I gave her access because she said she wanted to learn about finance. I trusted her. We all did. But why? Why would she do all this? Because she can't stand anyone else being happy, Mom said from the doorway. We hadn't heard her return. Because I spoiled her and excused her behavior until she became someone I don't recognize. Tyler's phone started ringing, Samantha's photo lighting up the screen. He declined the call. "The wedding's in 3 days," he said quietly. "I know. She's got everything planned perfectly. 300 guests, press coverage. She's been talking about it being the wedding of the year for months." Mom sat down heavily. "Tyler, what are you going to do?" Before he could answer, the front door burst open. Samantha stormed in, mascara streaked down her face. "You," she pointed at me. "You're poisoning everyone against me. First Mom, now Tyler." "No one's poisoning anyone," Tyler said. "We're just finally seeing the truth." "Truth?" She laughed hysterically. "The truth is, my sister's always been jealous of me. She can't stand that I'm getting the perfect wedding she couldn't have." "The wedding you made sure I couldn't have," I corrected quietly. "You have no proof." "Actually," Tyler held up his phone, "she has quite a lot of proof, including what you did with my company's money." Samantha's face went white. "I can explain." "Save it," Mom cut in. "I've spent years making excuses for you, Samantha. No more." "You're all against me." Samantha's voice rose to a shriek. "But the wedding's still happening. Everything's paid for. Everything's arranged. You can't stop it." "No one's trying to stop your wedding," I said, standing up. "In fact, I want it to happen exactly as planned." Something in my tone made her pause. "What does that mean?" "It means you're going to get the perfect wedding you deserve." "Are you threatening me?" "No, I'm promising you something. You wanted all the attention. You'll get it. You wanted a memorable day. It will be unforgettable." Tyler stood up. "I need time to think about everything." "Tyler, please." Samantha grabbed his arm. "Don't listen to them. Remember all our plans, our future." "Our future built on lies?" He gently removed her hand. "I'll see you tomorrow. Maybe." After Tyler left, Samantha turned to me, her mask completely gone. "You think you've won? I still have the upper hand. Your business is falling apart. Your reputation—" "My reputation will recover," I interrupted. "The truth has a way of doing that. The question is, will yours?" She stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. Mom sank into a chair. What happens now? I picked up my phone, opened my messages. Dozens of people, Jake, Maria, Brian, Sawyer, former clients Samantha had lied to, all waiting for my signal. Now, I said, we get ready for a wedding. Holly, Mum's voice was worried. What are you planning? I thought about all the years of Samantha's manipulations, all the lives she'd damaged, all the pain she'd caused. Justice, Mom. I'm planning justice. The grand ballroom buzzed with 300 of the city's elite. Samantha had spared no expense: crystal chandeliers, ice sculptures, and enough flowers to fill a greenhouse. She stood at the center of it all in her designer gown, basking in the attention. Tyler hadn't called off the wedding. Are you ready? Layla whispered, adjusting my bridesmaid's dress. Yes, I'd accepted the role, much to everyone's surprise, especially Samantha's. Everything's in place, I murmured back. Jake? She nodded toward the tech booth. Ready with the video system. Maria? Third row with the evidence files. Brian? By the bar with Tyler's company records. The wedding planner, not me, obviously, began herding people to their seats. Samantha caught my eye and smirked, probably thinking she'd won by having me stand here in her wedding party, diminished and defeated. The ceremony began. I watched Tyler's face as Samantha recited her vows, wondering if he could hear the insincerity in her voice. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, I stayed silent. That wasn't part of the plan. During the reception, the MC announced it was time for the speeches. Samantha had strategically placed mine last, probably expecting me to embarrass myself. I approached the microphone, champagne glass in hand. The room fell silent. For those who don't know me, I'm Holly, Samantha's sister. I smiled at the crowd. And I'm a wedding planner. Samantha's smile flickered. In fact, I specialize in crisis management, making sure nothing goes wrong on the perfect day, making sure no one can sabotage a wedding. The room shifted uncomfortably. People knew about my failed wedding, but no one ever spoke of it. Samantha taught me that skill, actually. She showed me exactly how a wedding could be destroyed. The fake messages, the cancelled vendors, the orchestrated humiliation. Holly, Samantha warned from her seat. But today isn't about my wedding. It's about truth, about consequences. I nodded to Jake. The ballroom screens lit up with evidence, time-stamped messages showing Samantha's manipulation, financial records from Tyler's company, testimonies from people she'd hurt. No. Samantha lunged for the tech booth, but Brian was faster, blocking her path. Tyler, I continued, did you know Samantha was engaged to you when she destroyed my wedding? That she delayed announcing it so she could steal both moments? Tyler stood up slowly, his face ashen. Is this true? Of course not, Samantha shrieked. She's lying. Actually, my mother's voice rang out as she stood. We have proof of everything. Maria stepped forward, holding up her phone. Including what she did to me, Tyler. The same pattern, the same manipulation. The crowd murmured. Phones came out, recording everything. You want to talk about patterns? I continued. Let's talk about childhood. Every time I achieved something, something mysterious would happen to ruin it. My 8th grade dance dress, destroyed. My college acceptance letter, mysteriously lost until after the deadline. Stop it, Samantha whispered, but her voice had lost its power. But your biggest mistake? I turned to face her directly. Was threatening my business, because that gave me nothing left to lose. The screens now showed her recent messages to my clients, the orchestrated campaign to destroy my reputation. You see, I addressed the crowd, my sister wanted a memorable wedding, one people would talk about forever. Congratulations, Samantha. You got your wish. Tyler stood up. The company money? How much did you take? Tyler, please. Samantha reached for him, but he stepped back. I can't. He looked around the silent room, at the evidence still playing on the screens, at his bride's crumbling facade. I can't do this. He walked out. The crowd erupted in whispers. Samantha lunged at me, but security, which I'd quietly arranged, intercepted her. "You ruined everything," she screamed. "No," I said calmly. "You did that all by yourself. I just made sure everyone saw the truth." Our mother approached, tears streaming down her face. "Samantha, how could you?" "Mom, don't you see? She's always been your favorite. I just wanted—" "To hurt people?" Mom shook her head. "To destroy lives. That's not what I raised you to be." The guests began filing out, phones still recording, whispers growing louder. Samantha's perfect wedding had become exactly what she'd feared, a public humiliation. "Holly," Layla touched my arm. "We should go." I looked at my sister one last time. She stood alone in her expensive dress, mascara running, the remnants of her carefully constructed world crumbling around her. "Karma's not a punishment, Samantha," I said softly. "It's a teacher. I hope you learn from this." As we left, I heard her collapse into sobs. But this time, there was no satisfaction in her tears, only a quiet sense of justice finally served. The morning sun streamed through my office windows as I reviewed the day's appointments. My phone buzzed with a text from Tyler. "Meeting with the lawyers today. Thanks for helping build the case." A knock at my door made me look up. My mother stood there, holding 2 coffee cups. "Thought you might need this," she said, setting one down. "Big day, 3 consultations and a venue walk through." I gestured to the chair. "How's the house hunting going?" "Found a nice condo downtown, smaller, but—" She trailed off, and I knew she was thinking about the empty rooms in our family home since Samantha had left town. "Have you heard from her?" Mum nodded slowly. "She's in therapy. Actually therapy this time, not just saying she is. Her therapist reached out, wants to arrange a supervised conversation." "And?" I said yes, but I told them you get to decide if and when you're ready. Another knock. Layla poked her head in. "Your 9 o'clock is here." "Oh, hi, Mrs. G." "I'll let you work," Mum stood, then hesitated. "Holly, I'm sorry I didn't believe you all those years. I was so focused on keeping the peace that I didn't see the damage being done." "Mom." "No, let me finish. Watching you handle everything with such grace, even during the wedding. I've never been prouder." After she left, Layla helped me prepare for the consultation. "Speaking of the wedding, have you seen the industry newsletter? Your business is booming since the story got out." "Turns out being known for exposing wedding sabotage is good for business." I smiled wryly. "Who knew?" My phone buzzed again. Brian this time. "Coffee later. Need your advice about something." Before I could respond, my clients arrived, a young couple with familiar anxiety in their eyes. "We heard about what happened at your sister's wedding," the bride said immediately. "That's why we chose you. We need someone who can spot trouble before it happens." "That's exactly what we do here," I assured them. "Tell me about your vision." As they described their plans, I noticed a small package on my desk that hadn't been there before. The return address made my heart skip. It was from Samantha. After the clients left, I opened it carefully. Inside was a small box and a letter. "Dear Holly, my therapist says I should write to you, but words feel inadequate. I've spent weeks trying to understand why I did what I did. The jealousy, the need to win, the constant competition. It was all my own insecurity. I couldn't stand seeing you happy because I'd never learned how to be happy myself. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I am asking for a chance to show you who I'm trying to become." Inside the box is Mom's old charm bracelet, the one we used to fight over as kids. "You should have it. You were always the stronger one." Samantha. The bracelet sparkled in the morning light, each charm holding a memory from our childhood. Before the competition, before the hurt. Layla found me staring at it. "You okay?" "I think I am." I slipped the bracelet into my drawer. "Ready for the venue walkthrough?" "Actually," she grinned, "there's someone here to see you first." Brian walked in, looking nervous but determined. "Sorry to drop by unannounced." "I thought we were meeting for coffee later." "We were, but—" He pulled out a small velvet box. I couldn't wait. My heart stopped. Brian, before you say anything, I know we have history. I know I failed you once. But watching you handle everything with such strength and dignity, I fell in love with you all over again. This time, I know exactly who you are. He opened the box, revealing a simple but elegant ring. I don't need a big wedding, I just need you. I looked at Layla, who was filming everything on her phone, tears streaming down her face. At my mother, who had reappeared in the doorway. At the bracelet in my drawer, a reminder of how far I'd come. Yes, I said simply, but on one condition. Anything. We elope. He laughed, sliding the ring onto my finger. Deal. My phone buzzed one final time. A text from my mother to our family group chat, which still included Samantha. Family therapy session next week. Holly, no pressure, but there's a seat for you if you want it. I looked at the ring on my finger, at Brian's hopeful face, at the successful business I'd built from the ashes of betrayal. Tell them I'll be there, I typed back. Some things are worth rebuilding.
I stared at the empty champagne glasses, arranged in perfect rows across the pristine white tablecloth. Each one caught the sunset's glow from the rooftop venue, creating tiny prisms of light that should have been magical. Instead, they mocked me with their emptiness. My name is Haley, and I'd spent 3 weeks planning what was supposed to be the perfect proposal dinner. Not my proposal. I was the planner, not the bride-to-be. My boyfriend Evan had hired my own company to orchestrate his grand gesture, not knowing I'd taken over the project personally. Miss Morgan? The catering manager approached, wringing his hands. The guests are getting restless. Should we begin serving? I checked my phone again. No messages, no calls. Just the time. 7:45 p.m. Evan was now 45 minutes late to his own proposal dinner. Give it 5 more minutes, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. 20 of our closest friends and family members were waiting, including my sister Lily, who kept shooting me concerned glances from across the room. Sophie, my best friend and designated photographer for the evening, lowered her camera. Haley, maybe you should try calling him again? Already did. 3 times. I smoothed down my navy cocktail dress, a nervous habit I'd developed over years of managing crisis moments at events. But this was different. This was personal. My phone buzzed. Finally. But instead of Evan's face, I saw a text message. Can't make it. Something came up. Sorry. The words blurred as I read them again. And again. 7 words. 7 stupid words to demolish weeks of planning and years of trust. He's not coming, I announced, my voice carrying across the expectant silence. The string quartet I'd hired stopped mid-song, their bows hovering uncertainly over their instruments. Lily rushed over, her green eyes wide with what looked like panic rather than surprise. What do you mean he's not coming? Did he say why? I handed her my phone, watching her face carefully. Something flickered in her expression. Was it guilt? Relief? Before she composed herself. This isn't like him, she said, but her voice wavered slightly. Isn't it? Sophie cut in, her tone sharp. She'd never fully warmed to Evan, despite my attempts to bring them closer. Now I wondered if she'd seen something I'd missed. The next hour passed in a blur of apologies and awkward goodbyes. I maintained my professional smile, thanking guests for coming, assuring them everything was fine. It wasn't until the last guest left that I allowed myself to sink into one of the ghost white chairs. I'll handle the vendors, Sophie offered, squeezing my shoulder. You should go home. I'll take her, Lily said quickly. Too quickly. No. I stood up, gathering my composure like armor. I need to stay. This is still my event, even if it's turned into a disaster. Haley, Lily started, but I cut her off. I'm fine. Really, just give me a minute alone. They retreated reluctantly, leaving me with the sunset view of the city I'd chosen so carefully for this moment. The perfect backdrop for a perfect proposal. What a joke. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Evan. We need to talk. Tomorrow. Lunch? I typed back a single word. Where? His response came immediately. Our usual place, 1 p.m. Our usual place. The cafe where we'd had our first date 2 years ago. Where he'd first told me he loved me. Where apparently he was planning to end things. Because that's what this was, wasn't it? You don't skip your own proposal dinner unless you've changed your mind about the whole thing. As I began directing the cleanup, I caught sight of Lily in an intense conversation with someone on her phone, her face hidden in the shadows. When she noticed me watching, she quickly ended the call and plastered on a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. That's when I knew. Something wasn't just wrong, it was worse than I imagined. And tomorrow at lunch, I'd find out exactly how much of my life had been built on lies. The cafe's familiar warmth felt foreign now, like a childhood home occupied by strangers. I arrived 15 minutes early, watching Evan's usual parking spot through the window. My hands wouldn't stop shaking, so I gripped my coffee cup tighter, letting the heat burn away the tremors. Sophie's words from this morning echoed in my head. Let me come with you. I don't trust him. But this conversation needed to happen alone. I'd spent the night piecing together a timeline of strange occurrences. Evan's sudden business trips, Lily's evasive behavior, the way they both seemed to disappear at the same social events. Evan walked in at exactly 1 p.m., impeccable as always in his tailored suit. The same suit he should have worn to propose in. Haley. He slid into the seat across from me, his expression carefully neutral. About last night. Save it, I cut him off. Just tell me why. He leaned back, studying me with those calculating eyes I used to find so captivating. Things have been complicated lately. I needed time to think. Complicated? I let out a sharp laugh. You had me plan my own humiliation. That's not complicated, Evan. That's cruel. A flash of genuine remorse crossed his face, or maybe I just wanted to see it there. I never meant for you to be involved in the planning. That was unfortunate. Unfortunate, I repeated, the word tasting bitter. Like how unfortunate it is that my sister keeps showing up at your office after hours? His composure cracked for just a second, a slight widening of the eyes, a quick clench of his jaw. Lily's been helping with some graphic design work. You knew that. Did I? I pulled out my phone, scrolling through the photos Sophie had sent me this morning. Because these don't look like business meetings. The images showed Evan and Lily entering his office building at 9 p.m. last Thursday, then leaving separately around midnight. Nothing definitively damning, but enough to make my stomach turn. You're having me followed now? His voice hardened. No, but apparently I should have been. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. You know what's really unfortunate, Evan? That I had to hear about your lunch with Elena from the catering staff at LeBlanc. This time, his mask slipped completely. How did you... I own an event planning company. People talk to me. I gathered my purse, fighting to keep my voice steady, especially when they see my fiancé having an intimate lunch with his ex-girlfriend the day before he's supposed to propose. It's not what you think. Save the explanation for Lily. I'm sure she'll be very interested to hear about Elena. As I turned to leave, he grabbed my wrist. Haley, wait. There are things you don't understand. I yanked my arm free. You're right. I don't understand how my sister could do this. I don't understand how you could make me look like a fool in front of everyone we know. But mostly, I don't understand why you're still lying when we both know it's over. I walked out, my heels clicking against the tile floor like a metronome counting down the seconds of our relationship. Outside, I spotted Lily waiting in her car across the street. She didn't see me, too focused on her phone, probably waiting for Evan's signal. My phone buzzed with a text from Sophie. Found something. Come to my studio, now. I took one last look at the cafe window. Evan was already on his phone, probably warning Lily I knew something. Let them scramble. Let them try to cover their tracks. They didn't know about Elena's voicemail yet, the one Sophie had somehow obtained. They didn't know about the financial records showing regular payments from Evan's company to Marcus's consulting firm. They didn't know that their careful house of cards was about to collapse. I got into my car, hands steady now. The time for tears and confusion was over. Now it was time to plan something much bigger than a proposal dinner. Something that would make last night's humiliation look like a casual disappointment in comparison. My phone buzzed again, Lily calling. I declined it, watching her face fall in her car's rearview mirror. Poor Lily, always so transparent with her emotions. She had no idea what was coming. I started my engine, heading towards Sophie's studio. Whatever she'd found, it would be another piece in the puzzle of betrayal I was slowly assembling. And when I finally had the full picture, no one would see the revenge coming until it was too late. Sophie's studio felt like a crime scene when I walked in. Documents and photos covered every surface, connected by red string like a conspiracy theorist's fever dream. She stood in the center, her camera forgotten around her neck. "I found Elena," she said without preamble. My stomach dropped. "And? She's dead, Haley." The words hit like a physical blow. I grabbed the nearest chair, steadying myself. "What do you mean, dead?" "Car accident, 6 months ago." Sophie handed me a newspaper clipping. Except it wasn't an accident. Look at the date. I scanned the article. 2 days after Elena had threatened to expose Evan's business practices to the SEC. The timing wasn't subtle. There's more. Sophie pulled up financial records on her laptop. Evan's company has been hemorrhaging money for months, but look where it's going. The screen showed regular transfers to an offshore account, each one coinciding with a payment from Marcus's consulting firm. The same firm where my sister Lily had started freelancing 3 months ago. My phone buzzed. Another message from Lily. "Please talk to me. It's not what you think." "Oh, it's exactly what I think," I muttered, silencing the phone. Sophie hesitated. "There's something else you need to see." She played a voicemail recording. Elena's voice, shaky but determined, filled the studio. "Evan, I know what you and Marcus are planning. Using Lily to get to Haley's client list? That's low, even for you. But the SEC fraud, that's what's going to bury you. I'm meeting them tomorrow unless..." The message cut off. The next day, Elena's car went off a bridge. "How did you get this?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Elena sent copies to multiple people. Insurance. Sophie's eyes met mine. "I'm not the only one who has it." A knock at the studio door made us both jump. Through the frosted glass, I recognized Lily's silhouette. "Don't," Sophie warned, but I was already moving. I opened the door. Lily stood there, mascara streaked down her face. "Haley, please." "How long?" I demanded. "What?" "How long have you been helping Evan steal my clients?" Her face crumpled. "It wasn't like that. Marcus said it was just market research." "Market research?" I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. "Is that what you call sleeping with my fiancé too?" Lily flinched. "That only happened once. I was drunk and..." "Save it." I stepped back into the studio. "Did you know about Elena?" The color drained from her face. "What about Elena?" "She's dead, Lily. Convenient timing, don't you think?" "No." She shook her head violently. "No, Evan wouldn't. Marcus said she moved to Europe." "Marcus says a lot of things, doesn't he?" I grabbed Elena's accident report from Sophie's desk. "Like how he's just doing consulting work? Not helping Evan launder money through your graphic design contracts?" Lily swayed, grabbing the doorframe. "I didn't know. I swear, Haley, I didn't know about any of this." "Get out." "Please, let me explain." "Get out!" I slammed the door in her face, my hands shaking so badly I could barely turn the lock. Sophie touched my shoulder. "What are you going to do?" I stared at the web of evidence before us. The financial records, the accident report, Elena's final warning. All the pieces of a puzzle I never wanted to solve. First, I'm going to call the SEC myself. I pulled out my phone. Then I'm going to destroy everything they've built, their reputations, their business, their perfect little scheme. "Haley." Sophie's voice was careful. That could get dangerous. If they really had something to do with Elena's death, then they should have thought of that before they involved my sister. I started gathering the documents. They wanted access to my client list? Fine. Let's see how those clients react when they learn where their money's really going. My phone lit up with a text from Evan. "We need to talk. All of us. Tonight." I showed it to Sophie, who shook her head. "It's a trap." "Of course it is." I texted back, "LeBlanc, 8 p.m. The same restaurant where he'd met Elena before her death. Let them think they had the upper hand. Let them think they could still control this situation. I had evidence of their fraud, proof of their betrayal, and nothing left to lose. By the time this was over, they'd learn what it really meant to trust the wrong person. LeBlanc's elegant interior felt like a stage set now, with every server and guest a potential witness to whatever was about to unfold. I arrived early, choosing a corner table that gave me a clear view of both entrances. The flash drive in my clutch felt heavier than it should, weighted with evidence that could destroy lives. Marcus arrived first, sliding into the seat across from me without invitation. "You need to stop digging," he said, his usual charm replaced by something harder. Interesting opening line. I sipped my water, studying him over the rim. No, hello, future sister-in-law? Elena should have stopped digging too. The threat hung in the air between us. I set my glass down carefully, noting how his left hand kept twitching toward his jacket pocket. "You know what's fascinating, Marcus?" I kept my voice light. How someone so careful could leave such a messy paper trail. His jaw tightened. "Whatever you think you found, table for two?" Lily's voice cut through our tension. She stood there in her favorite blue dress, the one I'd bought her for her last birthday, with Evan close behind her. "Isn't this cozy?" Evan said, pulling out Lily's chair. The gesture was familiar, practiced. How long had they been rehearsing these little moments? "Almost like family," I agreed. "Speaking of which, how's your mother, Marcus? Still managing that bridge club in Miami?" Color drained from his face. The woman who died in Elena's car hadn't been Elena at all. But proving that would take more than the circumstantial evidence I had. For now, the fact that he recognized the threat was enough. "We should order," Evan suggested smoothly, but his knuckles were white around his menu. "Actually, I already ordered for everyone." I smiled. "Hope you don't mind. I know all your favorites, after all." Lily shifted uncomfortably. "Haley, please. Can we just talk about this like adults? Like the adults who orchestrated a 2-year con to access my client list?" I pulled out my phone, scrolling through messages. "Or the adults who've been systematically draining those clients' accounts through fake investment schemes?" "It's more complicated than that," Evan started. "It always is." I looked directly at Lily. "Remember when Mom died? How complicated things were then? How you swore we'd always protect each other?" Tears welled in her eyes. "I never meant to sleep with my fiancé, to help him steal from people who trusted me, to get involved with—" I caught myself, noting Marcus's subtle head shake at Evan. Interesting. They hadn't told Lily everything. The waiter arrived with our food, 4 plates of Elena's favorite dish. Marcus's hand jerked so violently he knocked over his water glass. "Is something wrong?" I asked innocently. "I thought everyone liked seafood linguine. It was Elena's go-to order here, wasn't it, Evan?" "Enough games," Evan snapped. "What do you want?" "Want? I want my sister back. I want the last 2 years of my life back." I leaned forward. "But since that's impossible, I'll settle for watching you lose everything instead." "You don't want to do this," Marcus warned. "Actually, I do. But first," I turned to Lily. "Did they tell you about the insurance policy? The one that paid out after the accident?" Lily frowned. "What insurance policy?" "The one in your name." I pulled out a document, sliding it across the table. "Signed 3 days before Elena's car went off that bridge, with you as the beneficiary." The color drained from her face as she read. "I never signed this." "No," I agreed softly. "You didn't." The pieces were falling into place behind her eyes. The forged signature, the convenient timing, the way Marcus had insisted she start working with them right after Elena's death. Evan reached for the paper, but Lily snatched it back. "What did you do?" she whispered, looking between him and Marcus. "Lily, baby, let me explain," Marcus started. "Don't call me that." She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "Don't ever call me that again." As she rushed out, Evan and Marcus exchanged a look that confirmed everything I'd suspected. They hadn't just betrayed me. They'd used my sister as an unwitting accomplice in something much darker. I stood up, dropping several bills on the table. "Dinner's on me, gentlemen. Consider it a parting gift." "This isn't over," Evan called after me. I turned back, meeting his gaze. "No, it's not. But now Lily knows what you really are. And that's just the beginning." The SEC documents felt heavy in my hands as I watched Evan's company through the glass walls of their downtown office. From my car, I could see him pacing in his corner office, phone pressed to his ear. One email from me and those documents would reach every major news outlet in the city. My phone lit up with Sophie's message. "Lily's here. She's a mess. Says Marcus threatened her." Of course he did. I started the engine, but another text stopped me. "Someone broke into my studio last night. All the Elena evidence is gone." My hands trembled as I dialed Sophie's number. She answered on the first ring. "Are you okay?" I asked. "I'm fine, but Haley, they left something, a photo of your parents' car accident." The world tilted sideways. That accident had never been explained. A brake failure on a clear day. Both parents dead instantly. I'd been 22, Lily 20. "Get out of there," I said. "Take Lily and go to the lake house," she finished. "Already on our way." I ended the call, my mind racing. The lake house was our emergency spot off the grid, where we'd hidden after our parents died. Only family knew about it. My office was closer than Evan's building. I needed those backup files before... A tap on my window made me jump. Marcus stood there, hands in his pockets, smiling like we were meeting for coffee. I rolled down the window an inch. "Following me now? Just making sure you don't do anything rash." He glanced at the SEC documents on my passenger seat, like sending those to the wrong people. "You mean the right people? You know what's interesting about brake lines?" He leaned closer. "How easily they can fail. Twice even." The threat hung between us, crystal clear. "Get in," I said. He blinked. "What?" "Get in the car, Marcus. You want to talk? Let's talk." He hesitated, then walked around to the passenger side. As soon as he closed the door, I hit the accelerator. "What are you doing?" He grabbed the dashboard as I swerved through traffic. "Taking us somewhere private." I turned onto the highway, pushing the speed limit. "You want to discuss brake failures? Let's do it properly." His composure cracked. "Slow down." "Why? Scared of accidents?" I changed lanes aggressively. "Tell me about my parents." "I don't know what you're..." 8 years ago, Marcus. Before you met Lily, before Evan started his company, you worked at the garage that serviced their car. He went very still. "How did you..." Elena didn't just keep records about Evan. She had files on everyone. I took a sharp exit. "Including the mechanic who helped stage their accident. Pull over." "No." I pressed harder on the gas. "First, you're going to call Evan. Put him on speaker." "You're insane." "Maybe, but I'm also the one driving." I swerved again, making him grab the door. "Make the call." His hands shaking, he dialed. Evan answered immediately. "Where are you?" Evan demanded. "With your ex-fiancée," Marcus said, "who's apparently lost her mind." "Having fun yet?" I asked loudly. "Because I am. Nothing like a nice drive to clear the head. Maybe we'll check the brakes when we stop, if we stop." "Haley," Evan's voice turned serious. "Whatever you think you know. I know everything." I took another turn too fast. "About Elena, about my parents, about how you used my sister to cover your tracks. The only question is, what am I going to do about it?" Silence filled the car. "Here's what's going to happen," I continued. "You're going to transfer back every penny you stole. You're going to confess to Elena's murder. And you're going to leave my sister alone." "Or what?" Evan asked. I laughed, the sound hollow even to my ears. "Or I drive this car off the same bridge where Elena died, with your partner in crime beside me. Your choice." Marcus's face went ash white as we approached the bridge. "You wouldn't," Evan said, but uncertainty crept into his voice. "Wouldn't I? You killed my parents, used my sister, stole my life." I pressed the accelerator harder. "Maybe it's time someone showed you what real revenge looks like." The bridge loomed ahead, its guardrails gleaming in the afternoon sun, just like they had the day Elena died. "Tick-tock, boys," I said softly. "What's it going to be?" The charity gala sparkled with false promises, just like everything else in my life had. I stood at the podium, watching Evan and Lily enter arm in arm, their practiced smiles never reaching their eyes. 300 of the city's elite turned to watch them, unaware they were about to witness something far more entertaining than another engagement announcement. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, my voice steady despite the weight of the USB drive in my hand. "Tonight we're here to talk about trust." Evan's head snapped up, his eyes meeting mine across the ballroom. He knew. Of course he knew. But he couldn't stop what was already in motion. "Trust in our financial institutions," I continued, clicking to the first slide. "Trust in our loved ones." Another click. Elena's accident report appeared on the screen. "And trust in justice." Gasps rippled through the crowd as bank statements replaced the accident report, showing millions in fraudulent transfers. Evan started moving toward the stage, but security, hired by me, not him, blocked his path. My former fiancé, Evan Carter, and his associate Marcus Reed have been running an elaborate Ponzi scheme through their investment firm. My voice carried over the growing murmurs. But that's not their worst crime. Lily stood frozen, her champagne glass slipping from her fingers. The crash echoed through the suddenly silent room. 8 years ago, they orchestrated a car accident that killed 2 people. My parents' photos appeared on screen. And 6 months ago, they murdered Elena Martinez to cover their tracks. Chaos erupted. Phones came out recording everything. Evan's face contorted with rage as he shoved past security. "You have no proof," he snarled, reaching for the podium. I held up the USB drive. "I have every proof, already sent to the SEC, FBI, and every major news outlet in the country." "You're destroying everything," he hissed. "Like you destroyed my family?" The sound of breaking glass cut through the commotion. Marcus had Lily by the arm, dragging her toward the exit. "Tell them," he ordered. "Tell them it's all lies." But Lily pulled away, tears streaming down her face. "I can't. Not anymore. Then you'll go down with us." Marcus reached into his jacket. The gunshot was deafening. Screams erupted as people rushed for the exits. I saw Lily fall, red blooming across her blue dress. My feet moved before my brain could process what was happening. No. I pressed my hands against the wound in her shoulder, her blood warm and sticky between my fingers. "Stay with me, Lily. Please." "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't know about Mom and Dad." Evan's laughter cut through the chaos. He stood over us, holding another gun. "Always trying to save each other. How touching." "You're surrounded," I said. "It's over. Maybe." He aimed the gun at my head. "But you won't be around to see how it ends." A second shot rang out. I flinched, but it was Evan who stumbled backward, clutching his arm. Sophie stood in the doorway, her camera forgotten, holding the security guard's weapon. "Actually," she said, "I think we all will." As police sirens wailed in the distance, I held my sister close, watching my carefully orchestrated revenge crumble into something messier and more violent than I'd planned. Lily's blood seeped into my dress, a stark reminder that vengeance always demands its own price. "The evidence," Evan groaned from the floor. "It'll never hold up. You've got nothing but circumstantial." "She has me." Elena stepped through the crowd, very much alive, though her face bore scars from the accident that had killed her sister instead. "And I have everything." My victory should have felt sweeter. Instead, watching Lily pale from blood loss, seeing the wreckage of lives scattered across the ballroom floor, I realized revenge wasn't the clean, satisfying thing I'd imagined. It was messy, costly, and left scars that might never heal. As paramedics rushed in and police officers began securing the scene, I caught my reflection in a shattered champagne glass. I barely recognized the person staring back, someone who'd become as calculating and ruthless as the people she'd sought to destroy. The question wasn't whether I'd won. The question was what I'd lost along the way. The hospital corridor stretched endlessly before me as I followed the detective's brisk pace. Through the window of Lily's room, I could see Sophie standing guard, her camera ready as always. "We've got them both in custody," Detective Chen said, stopping at the door. "But there's something you need to see first." She handed me a phone, Elena's, recovered from a safety deposit box. The video started playing automatically. Elena, alive but terrified, speaking directly to the camera. "If you're watching this, I'm probably dead. Like my sister was supposed to be dead. Like the Morgans were supposed to be dead." My hand trembled as faces flashed across the screen. Not just my parents, but others. All accidents. All connected to Evan's rise to power. "Your sister's awake," Sophie called from the doorway. "And she's talking." Inside, Lily lay pale against white sheets, but her eyes were clear. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. "Marcus escaped custody." Before I could respond, Elena stepped into the room. The scars on her face caught the fluorescent light, a permanent reminder of the accident that killed her sister instead of her. "He'll come for the evidence," Elena said. "All of it." "Let him." I pulled out my phone, sending the video file to every contact I had. It's too late to bury the truth now. The lights flickered, then went out. Emergency generators hummed to life, casting everything in an eerie red glow. Through the window, I saw hospital security running toward the stairs. "He's here," Sophie said, checking her camera's memory card. "And he's not alone." A gunshot echoed from the stairwell, then another. "Get Lily out," I ordered Sophie. "Use the service elevator. Elena, go with them." "What about you?" Lily grabbed my hand. "Haley, please." "I started this. I'll finish it." The door burst open. Marcus stood there, wild-eyed, gun trained on Elena. Behind him, Evan emerged from the shadows, his arm still bandaged from Sophie's shot. "The video," Evan demanded. "Delete it, now." "Already gone viral." I stepped between them and Lily's bed. "Check your phone. Check any phone." Marcus fired at the ceiling, sending plaster raining down. "You think this is a game? Your sister dies next." "Like you killed Elena's sister?" I watched his face contort. Or was that supposed to be Elena? Hard to tell identical twins apart in a burning car, isn't it? "Shut up." Marcus swung the gun toward me. "Marcus," Evan's voice carried a warning. "We need her alive to..." "To what?" Elena stepped forward. "To sign over the company? Like you made me sign over mine before you tried to kill me?" Another shot rang out, but not from Marcus's gun. He crumpled, revealing Detective Chen in the doorway, her weapon steady. Evan lunged for Marcus's fallen gun. I kicked it away, sending it skittering under Lily's bed. He grabbed my throat instead, slamming me against the wall. "You could have had everything," he snarled. "We could have built an empire." "Built on what?" I choked out. "Murder? Theft? My sister's guilt? On survival." His grip tightened. "Your parents were weak. Elena was weak. But you understand what it takes. You're just like me." "No." I drove my knee up, breaking his hold. "I'm nothing like you." As he stumbled back, Sophie's camera flashed, capturing his rage, his desperation, his final moment of freedom before Detective Chen's handcuffs clicked shut. "Haley Morgan." He spat my name like poison. "Always planning the perfect event. Was this ending perfect enough for you?" I looked at Lily, alive and safe. At Elena, finally free from hiding. At Sophie, documenting every moment of justice served. Actually, I rubbed my bruised throat. I think it could use one final touch. I pulled out Elena's phone, playing the last video she'd recorded, Evan's full confession, filmed during our confrontation at LeBlanc, transmitted live to the FBI. As they led him away, I sat beside Lily's bed, taking her hand. The revenge I'd planned had nearly destroyed us both. But maybe, in its ashes, we could build something stronger than before. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for everything." "I know." I squeezed her hand. "Me too." Outside, sirens wailed into the night, carrying away the men who'd thought they could bury their secrets forever. They never understood that some truths refuse to stay hidden, no matter how deep you try to bury them. The courthouse steps felt colder than they should in spring. I watched Evan and Marcus being led away in handcuffs, their expensive suits replaced by prison orange. Neither looked back. Men like them never do. Elena stood beside me, her scars catching the morning light. "The money's been traced," she said. "They're returning it to all the victims. Not everything can be returned." I thought of my parents, of Elena's sister, of all the lives broken beyond repair. "No," she agreed, "but some things can be rebuilt." Inside my office, Lily was waiting. She'd insisted on coming back to work, even with her arm still in a sling. The design sketches on her desk were different now, memorials for those lost to Evan's schemes, funded by the recovered money. "The Thompson wedding called," she said, not looking up. "They want to know if we're still handling their event." "Are we?" She finally met my eyes. "That depends. Are we still a team?" The question carried the weight of everything we'd lost and found. I picked up one of her sketches, a garden memorial with 2 intertwined trees reaching toward the sky. "You designed this for Mom and Dad?" She nodded, tears threatening. I thought, maybe it's time to build something beautiful from all this ugliness. Sophie burst in, camera in hand as always. "You need to see this." She pulled up a news article on her tablet. They found more evidence in Evan's private servers, other accidents, other families. "How many?" I asked, though part of me didn't want to know. "Dozens, going back years before he met you." She hesitated. And there's something else. Remember that bridge club in Miami? Marcus's mother? Wasn't his mother. Another victim who knew too much, replaced by someone who looked similar enough. They had a whole network of people helping them hide bodies and identities. Lily's hand found mine across the desk. This time I didn't pull away. "What happens now?" she asked. I looked at the three women before me. My sister, who'd lost her way but found her courage. Sophie, whose loyalty never wavered. And Elena, who'd sacrificed everything to expose the truth. Now we finish what we started. I pulled out a file I'd been working on. There are other families out there who deserve answers. Other victims who need justice. "It's dangerous," Sophie warned. "Some of Evan's associates are still out there. So are we." Elena's voice carried steel beneath its softness, and we know how to fight back now. A notification pinged on my phone, Detective Chen requesting a meeting. More evidence had surfaced, more connections to unravel. The web of deceit stretched further than any of us had imagined. "I can't ask you to risk everything again," I told them. Lily stood, her good arm reaching for a fresh sketch pad. "You're not asking, we're choosing." Sophie raised her camera, capturing the moment, not of victory or vengeance, but of four women choosing to stand together against the shadows that had tried to break them. "Besides," Elena added, touching her scars, "some fights choose you." I looked at my reflection in the window, remembering the woman who'd planned her revenge with such cold precision. She was still there, but changed, tempered by loss, strengthened by truth, guided by something deeper than vengeance. "One condition," I said, turning back to them. "We do this right. No more secrets between us. No more shadows to hide in." Lily's design took shape on her pad, a phoenix rising from ashes, its wings spread wide enough to shelter those beneath. Protection, not revenge. Justice, not vengeance. "The Thompson wedding's next week," she said, a hint of her old smile returning. "Should we show them how Morgan sisters throw a party?" First, I picked up Detective Chen's message. We have some other plans to make. Outside, spring sunlight broke through clouds, casting long shadows across the city. But shadows don't seem so dark once you've learned to navigate them. Sometimes they even show you the way forward if you're brave enough to look. Sophie raised her camera one more time. "Ready?" We were, all of us. Not for an ending, but for whatever came next. Together.